Greetings, salutations. Happy Good Friday. With a special episode to counteract, I guess, our last Monday. We had some unfortunate technical difficulties, but we are coming to you on a Friday. And you are listening to the Armchair Chirpers, episode 60. We would just like to reach out and acknowledge our great friends at Reboot Repair, Stratford's best computer support services, personalized IT solutions, hardware, software repairs, on-site, and business services. They would invite you to come visit them at 155 Erie Street in downtown Stratford. We got a couple guests here from St. Mary Lincoln territory, and we'll get to you guys in a minute. But Rhett and Chris Chessel, thanks so much for coming in on a special episode on Good Friday. Thanks for making the trek down Highway 7.
Happy Easter weekend.
Happy Easter weekend. And, well, I guess what I'd like to do is kind of get into it right away for where we kind of left off, where the episode 59 absolutely blew up. It's up over 900 views now, which is incredible. So we always thank you for that, fans and listeners. Thank you very much for that. And one of the culprits of the blow up was you, Mr. Hawley, trying to get a little bit of sandpaper going for the Stratford fans.
Stirring the pot.
Well, sometimes the pot needs to be stirred, frankly. And, I found there was a bit of fan apathy going on with Stratford. I'm not sure what the culprit is of that. We can do a deep dive some point as to why that is. But when I heard Game 4, 572, I just went, wow, man, where is everybody? And I got to say, I challenged you, Stratford Warriors fans, and you responded in kind. There were 1,000 more people there for Game 6 than there were Game 4. Now, one thing that has to be acknowledged, I guess, is that it was a Friday night and not a Monday. It was an elimination game, and, of course, Small Town Strip Club, and we always love shouting them out. They were there and had a great show the hour before, but I'm still taking credit for it.
As you should.
I just got to say, I challenged you, Warrior fans, and you responded, and good on you. And it was a really good atmosphere on the Friday night. I was there too, because I remember saying to myself, I can't challenge these guys for not coming out and then not come out myself, because there was a linkage game that same night, which, as it turned out, was probably just as well I missed it. Frankly, what was it, 7-5 or 4-0, 10 minutes into the game or something like that.
Didn't miss much.
I missed the comeback, which would have really brought the roof down when they came back and made it 4-4. But it was focusing on Stratford. It was a great atmosphere. 1,600 people, 1,583 or whatever it was. So Congratulations to the Warrior fans. Unfortunately, it turned out to be the last home game. We were really hoping for that conference final between Stratford and St. Mary's.
Oh, it would have been so good.
But it's through nobody's fault other than the Chathams, really. The fans gave it their all, the players gave it their all, and it's a shame they couldn't get it done on Sunday, but they just came up a goal short.
I really liked Coach Williams had a little spiel on 519 after the game, and you could just see it. He said it. I don't know much more we could have done, right? I think Stratford, with 14 rookies in the lineup, to take that team to Game 7 was quite an accomplishment, and I think they really did give everything they had. It just wasn't meant to be this year, unfortunately. But
well, it was interesting, where Coach Willie said they had actually played 2 Game 7s, it felt like, before the actual Game 7. Game 3 being down 2-0, and it felt like a Game 7 because they didn't want to come home for Game 4 down 3-0. And then Game 6 was a do-or-die game. And so he hit the nail on the head when he said, I feel like we've already played 2 Game 7s before the actual Game 7.
Great accomplishment for that young team. Unreal.
Yeah, I mean, we want to do a deep dive into, a post-mortem for the Warriors, but in respect for Les, who was unable to make it today due to family commitment, we'll wait for Monday's show and do that when he comes back. He is, after all, the voice of the Warriors, and
Absolutely.
We count on his input for that. But we can talk about teams that did make the conference final if you want, Jeff.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, what better resources than to bring the biggest fan, to the studio this afternoon. And Rhett, congratulations on your team making the conference final.
Yeah, I mean, we did it 3 years in a row, and we're going to go back-to-back this year. And
Right on.
I'm calling it right now. Lincolns are going to win 6 games.
6 games.
Yep.
So, we're going to dive a little bit into how they got there. But at the time of this recording, we're looking at after Game 1 that was just last night. What were your thoughts on the game that you saw out of your team opening game?
They finally played a full 60 minutes. They haven't played a full 60 minutes since Game 3 against London. Forecheck was great. Defense was great. I can't say enough about Nico Armlin. He's still on his head. Played fantastic, and you just got to go with him for the rest of the series, I think. He's a hot hand, and, I mean, they're just playing well. And if they play like that, I think it'll be a short series.
Well, I was actually wondering when that was going to happen, where Coach Bradley had to go with the hot hand. And I think everything changed in Game 5, like you had mentioned, where they got down 4-0 against London. And that seemed to change everything. They're down 4-0. They pull Booth Housego through no fault of his own. Like the kid has done nothing but win all season long, has had a great playoffs. Obviously, he had an off night. I wasn't there, but just looking at the shots, he wasn't getting the support. It was a complete team breakdown. But in comes Armelin. They come all the way back, make it from being down 4-0 to tying it up 4-4, and then eventually losing it 7-5, including an empty netter. But that seems to have changed Bradley's thought process, because then he comes back with Armelin in Game 6. And then for the big one where we were all there, he's still going with the hot rookie for Game 7.
Yeah, that Game 4, Game 4, no fault Kobe Booth at all. One of the worst first periods I've seen. And Brian and I, we've had many discussions about our first period since about Christmas. There's been some questionable starts.
They had an excuse in the regular season.
Yeah.
That was kind of some lethargy where they were already home and cooled for first place, and just having real trouble motivation. But that doesn't cut it in the playoffs.
No, and I think that's exactly what happened in that game. London was on the brink of elimination, and they came out playing desperate hockey and a few breakdowns. And in all, we do miss Livermore on the back end, and it really showed that game for sure, because we didn't make the adjustments yet. And they just took advantage. They were going down through the middle, splitting our D, which is something I haven't seen all year. They had 3 or 4 chances, and they buried them, and that was the first period, right? But I think everybody in the arena kind of knew they would fight their way back. Once we got to 4-1, 4-2, you could feel it. The tide was turning. But the third period, London they got back to playing a bit better defensively, and they shut us down. But there was definitely an interesting series, because the first 3 games was typical London hockey. Not real smart. A lot of penalties. Just, a lot of garbage after the whistles and everything else. They got themselves in a big hole against a good team.
And a hot goalie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly, right? And
Loves to kick the net off every time we're in the offensive zone.
yeah.
Should have won Game 5 because Wexstrom kicked the net off about 5 times, and we had 2 goals called back. So
Yeah, I mean, that's
We're
just
gonna get
another
into that,
whole,
Rhett.
that's another whole conversation that we could talk for hours about it. But I think London changed like the way they started to play. And when they won the 3 games in a row, they played a different game. They were literally not taking stupid penalties. They were playing hard and smart hockey. You could tell that they had a conversation. Somebody went into that room and said, either fix this or it's over. Credit to them for changing the way they played, because they made it a hell of a series. And Game 7, I think the better team obviously won, but it was a nail biter, and pretty awesome atmosphere in St. Mary's, over 1,400 there, and that was a good time.
Yeah, the atmosphere wasn't even about the numbers, really. Just the tension in the room, was palpable. It was really wonderful. And I'd like to give a shout out to Casimir Wexstrom. Frankly,
Absolutely.
Game 5 doesn't happen without Casimir Wexstrom standing on his bloody head in Game 4 in Period 2. Period 2, the shots were 20-6. And because of a sloppy late goal by London in the last minute of that period, it came out of that period 1-1. And those were not, it reminded me of Wilmore against Waterloo, where
A couple
Stratford had
years ago.
absolutely no business winning that hockey game, and he wasn't just making 20 saves in a period. He was making circus saves, flying from side to side in the net. His mobility for a kid that size to be that mobile in going side to side, really, really impressive. And you know what? As frustrated as we all were with the net coming off, kudos to him. He knew he could get away with it. That's smart hockey. If you can get away with an advantage in playoffs, who cares what people are yelling from the stands,
So-
man? But, you know, it was really impressive by that kid, and you could see it after Game 7. There's no love lost between these two franchises. This is old
No.
hate. This is 3 times in a row in the playoffs. This is little town versus big city. This is private owned versus community owned. There is every reason to have this is the Culletons and the Siskins version of the Western Conference. But when I looked at Wexstrom, it took him a good 5 minutes just to get up off the ice. He was physically, emotionally, mentally drained. He gave it everything he had right to the last second and just gave up one too many goals. And you can't fault him for any of the goals that were scored by by St. Mary's, sorry. So I just want to give that kid a shout out. That's a long way from home, from Finland. And I'm sure he was never yelled at some of the things that were yelled at him in the stands there.
We
But
could not repeat that.
he stood right up to it. He took it all, and he darn near pulled off a real upset. So kudos to you, kid.
So I know that we don't have any, let's say, scouting on our resumes. Here's a question to throw around the table. So you have Wexstrom, who kicked the post off multiple times. I think we're up to about 10 goals in that series that were called back because of it. And kudos to your comments, Holly. I completely disagree. I think that there's a huge issue with that. And if you're not going to address it, there's going to be a big problem in this league. And I guess my question as if we want to try to put on our scout caps, do you think if there's scouts watching that goalie doing that 10 times over the course of a series that has any validity or any impact of him being in a conversation with an opportunity to move forward from this league with that type of attitude of kicking the net off, which he clearly did for over about 10 goals for the league? Very quickly, my opinion, I would take issue with that. It's simply my opinion. You've got to have the compete. You cannot use excuses like that. He's fully working within the rules of the league. Like I heard many times, the refs were instructed specifically not to call any penalties about those situations. I think that's absolute nonsense. It was a black eye on the series, a black eye on the league in general. And it needs to be addressed because it's a great hockey league with great players. Wexstrom's better than that, in my opinion.
Whoever
And I
made
just
that
think-
decision needs to resign immediately.
Why not? Why not?
You know what I thought was karma coming back was in Game 7, because Wexstrom was doing it again in Game 7. Every time he felt the heat with St. Mary's, what he was doing is he was putting his right or his left skate against the post, and then when he would push off and do his starfish routine, the net would come off, and then if St. Mary's scored, no goal because the net had come off. But what I thought was karma was you had Armelin doing the exact same thing late in the third period when London was buzzing around trying to get that equalizer, and it was fantastic to see. The crowd was cheering, that Armelin was doing the exact same thing. But to your point, Jeff, I agree 100%. It's a black eye on the league.
It dilutes
It's
the talent of the league when you get into that type of nonsense.
It was
That's
just
my
making a
opinion.
travesty of a great game.
100%.
Two
That's
good
exactly
teams.
it.
It happened to Stratford in Game 1 in Chatham. They tie it up in the last minute, and the net was off because Hunter had pushed off, and it's just ridiculous. And how is it that Stratford is the only city apparently that seems to have it figured out like the OHL and have the rubber posts put in, not these what did you call them?
The corn cob holders.
The corn cob holders.
Remember
That's
when you were
exactly
young,
what
you
they
used
are.
those little things to hold on to the cob of corn when you're eating them so you don't burn your hands?
Still use them.
So
That's what they're using for nets now.
the Game 7 experience for us standing where we were. Very quick story. We're standing beside two London fans, and I think the one guy,
One
his
was a
son was
parent.
playing.
Yeah, it was Balak's.
And
his
you
dad.
know, Wexstrom was doing his thing and kicking it off, and Razor's like, "That's embarrassing! Like that's unbelievable." And the guy standing beside Razor from London says to him, "Well, it's your town. If you want it to be better, why don't you fix it?" And we just kind of, we're at bay. So in the third period, when Armelin was doing all that, Razor's yelling, "Man, that's a shame." Here we are. That is unfortunate.
That is
and
unfortunate.
they were silent.
Well,
Yeah.
the funny thing is, when they were winning 4-0 in St. Mary's Game 5, it didn't get pushed off at all. Wexstrom had no interest in pushing off when they were up 4-0.
Didn't want to stop the play,
No.
the
That's
the black
momentum.
guy.
It was
That's
very
right.
interesting
Black
to
guy.
see how once the score started to change, it started to come off. So, and somebody will tell me, "Oh, the intensity of the game, you had to push off harder." But oh no, come on. The rule's broken. I said this in a long post somewhere last week, but the rule is broken. It has to be addressed this off season. Every
Agreed.
arena in the GOJHL should have the exact same pegs. If you want to be legit, and this is a good league, and we have legit players and legit organizations, there's no argument.
Especially legit goalies.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and it's a tarnish on
Yeah.
on their, whatever Wexstrom is as a goalie. I don't look at him as the praise that you're giving him, Holly. I look at it as the goalie that really saved his team from getting absolutely shellacked because he was using something to his advantage to possibly win a game, which is wrong.
It should have been a sweep. Like, it honestly should have. With the amount of goals we had called back, it would have
Yeah.
been a sweep. And if Lincolns would have played full 60 minutes in Game 4, we would not been talking about Game 7. Lincolns would have had at least a week of rest. And, yeah,
Valid.
they should have been a swept.
Like in hindsight, it's if you talk to the treasurer of the St. Mary's Lincolns, he's saying it played out exactly the way that they wanted it
We
to.
got another 2,700 fans in the building for 2 more home
Twice,
Oh,
right?
for the
Like for
games,
games
of course.
5 and game 7. But obviously, St. Mary's did not want to have to go to 7. Financially, it worked out perfectly. But my goodness, you don't want to flirt with that. But getting back to game 7, though, like I was just so impressed. Like I thought I had seen the one game down in Waterloo, and Spags, I didn't know if he was hurt. And when he's not dishing to Lee, they're not driving. He looks like he's 100% now. He's firing because I love it how Coach Bradley called Elzinga
Hodkinson and Bidgood.
as the best, currently the best line in the go. And it's hard to argue with that statement because he just said, as they lost game 4, as they lost game 5, as they lost game 6, his exact quotes, I got it written down here, where he said, the believers were shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And then, like I said before, the decision to start Armelin for game 6 and 7, clutch play. But yeah, the Elzinga, Hodkinson, and Bidgood have been driving you guys to get to where you are, and now it looks like you've got Spags playing again. And
Well, last night, I know you weren't there, Razor, but last night I'm just looking at Holly all night going, him and Lee, and you know who sometimes gets forgotten but doesn't get forgotten but not mentioned is Vortman.
yeah,
That kid is dynamite.
great release.
I think I said on our first playoff preview, Bortman is the quietest 60-point player you'll ever see. Because it's not just for him, it's not just about points. 27 goals, which puts him in the top 10 in the league. But he just does everything well. He's smart with the puck every time he touches it. Those guys feed off each other. They're intuitive. They play intuitively. They know where each other is going. They work on you can tell that they're working on certain plays. The start of the third period on the power play,
Set
did you
play.
see the play they
Yep.
pulled off there?
Set play.
Where both defensemen are coming right up to the circle and moving when the puck is dropped. Spagnuolo chipped it forward, and all of a sudden there's a 2-on-1 with Lee and McQueen Spence, I think it was. Or was
Yeah.
it Vortman? One of the
It
other.
was
Yeah.
Vortman.
Anyway,
yeah.
there's a set play off an opening draw of a period. And that's
Yeah.
something you just don't see very much. But to your point about Hodkinson specifically, don't look now, but who's leading the league in playoff scoring? Ryan Hodkinson is. And here's a guy
Yeah.
who I have extolled his virtues all season long. To me, he is Jordan Staal. And for those of you who are old enough to remember, when the Penguins were winning their Stanley Cups, they had Crosby as their number 1 center iceman. They had Malkin as their number 2 center iceman. And everybody talked about this 1-2 punch. What they started talking about in the playoffs was Jordan Staal. He was out at the end of the game. He was out there killing penalties. He's out on priority faceoffs. That third-line center iceman that nobody else in the league had. And that's what Ryan Hodgkinson is. And he is of a similar body type. Staal was, 6'2", 6'3". Hodgkinson is about the same height, has the long reach, uses every inch of that long reach, seems to win every single puck battle, wins most of his faceoffs. And I think the best part about Ryan Hodgkinson, he's from St. Mary's. He's one of 2 guys on the roster that are actually from St. Mary's.
St. Mary's and a Oshawa Generals draft pick.
Well, he played minor hockey in town until he was 15, I believe. And then he
He's
did
an
play
06,
Lakers for a
yeah.
couple years. He played a couple years with Lakers, but I'll tell you a story. While I was coaching the minor Adam Lakers, he's the same age as Brock, my middle son. I asked and begged to get him for 2 years, and I couldn't get him. He wasn't ready to come. Mom and Dad and himself, they weren't ready to come to Lakers.
Right.
But when eventually he did, he drove that team as well. They won the U16. They won the Alliance.
13? I think they may have won at 13
Yeah.
because he played with a kid that I coached baseball, Finn Stewart. And I watched them. Whether they won it, they definitely made the finals that year anyway.
Well, they
I
won
ended
the
up watching some
All-Ontario's in
games.
St. Mary's. So Brock was on that team with Finn and Ryan. Carter Froggatt was the goalie. He's now in Windsor Spitfire goal.
Mhm.
So it's pretty cool to see that team. There's some pretty impressive
Little
names
St.
from that
Mary's,
team.
Well-
cranking out hockey players like that, man. That's
and
fantastic.
I think that Razor can attest to this too, since we've been going out to the games, and talk about the little engine that could with this St. Mary's community and the team and the players, and Holly, you'll be the first to admit that they had this little work of magic with Lee and Spags coming to town from the GTA. That just doesn't happen, but it has. They've been there for 3 years. They're part of the fiber of the community. But with that being said, with guys like Lee and Spagnolo, last night, what do they play? 27 minutes a night, 30 minutes a night,
At least, yep.
and these kids, young men, players in this league, are what's the word?
Exemplary.
Thank you. An example of what hard work gets you in this league. Just all the characteristics of leaders, of the calmness, picking your spots, consistency, tenacity, battling. All these words come to mind about these 2 players, and don't get me wrong, we're talking about Vortman, we're talking about Elzinga, we're talking about who's my guy on defense, Montesi.
Montesi, yep.
I know that
Yeah.
you're mentioning maybe he's a little bit inconsistent sometimes. I think in 2 games that I've seen him, for the pace of the game, for the quality of the game that he's playing, that guy, and not to mention Calpin. Gosh, we can go down the whole team to be honest with you. But these players in this small town giving it their all, man. There is a lot of magic going on in St. Mary's right now.
And credit
Yeah.
to Pat Powers at the top, the GM, and of course Jeff Bradley. And congratulations to Jeff Bradley. We should mention winning Coach of the Year.
Another trophy
Yeah.
for the cabinet.
Well deserved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Congratulations.
And, while we're at it, Jaden Lee winning 2 awards, winning the whatever they call the Lady Bing version of their trophy.
Best defensive forward.
And best defensive forward.
yeah.
Most gentlemanly, I think is what they
Yeah,
are.
Most
yeah.
14
gentlemanly.
penalty minutes all
14
season.
penalty minutes.
And
Crazy.
And he got one last night.
Yeah, and he
when
takes
they
a
were down
beating.
in a 4-minute
Yeah.
penalty.
And he takes a beating. He takes a beating.
Oh, he
And
does.
yes, when you were mentioning all of those complimentary words, I would like to add toughness,
100%.
because we have seen Spagnolo specifically. We have seen him get laid out. He was the one that received the knee from Pomerleau in Game 7 at
Yes.
the end of
For
period
London
2.
dirty.
Yes.
We've seen him get kneed before. We've seen him. Remember when Bork filled him in right in
Yeah.
front of the Waterloo,
Waterloo,
bench?
yeah.
We're talking Boston Bork, 6'5", 225, just a beast of a kid. Caught Spagnola with a legal hit with his head down. He's trying to hang on to it as long as he can to make that play to Lee like he's done all year long. and Boston Borg knocked him into next week, and he got up and skated away from
Let's
it. He
not
is one
forget,
tough dude,
He's
man.
5'7".
Yep.
Maybe 5'8" with his blades on. And I don't know what he
140
weighs.
pounds.
Yeah, I
Like,
think he's
you'd have to
probably
anchor him down in a
150,
windstorm.
You know, he's
But
tough,
you were saying
tough,
last
tough.
night too, Holly, and it was such a accurate. And I mean, you've watched these guys all season long and for years before that. You know, there's certain things that need to happen when you want to compete for a championship, and there's something that you said last night that really was a great surprise for you as an observer and a fan of the team. How physical they were. It was the most physical game that you said you've seen in quite a while.
I think that's as physical. I thought they shocked Chatham last night with how physical they were. They hit them, especially in the first period. They hit them all over the place, and they generally don't play that way.
Yeah, I think Game 7 London, they did that too. Game 7, because they didn't hit for 3 or 4 games, the ones they lost for sure. But Game 7, that's how they got their goals, was hitting behind the net and
That was
causing
Elzinga,
turnovers, right?
Yep.
Elzinga
The
did it
biggest
twice.
thing that I noticed
Yeah.
last night when they had their opportunities and they did execute with the goals is that they were causing a lot of disruption with breakouts and neutral zone, and you know you saw the plays that Chatham was trying to execute. St. Mary's just wasn't having it. I was saying to Holly, you at one point last night, you know, they were going 1-1-3. The 3 at the defensive zone were standing right at the red line. Chatham couldn't penetrate into the other opportunities of the zone. It just wasn't happening. They were disrupting everything that they were trying to do.
What was Chatham's
Right.
power play coming in? They were almost like at a 40%.
Well,
Well, they
Well,
were
they
number
were-
one in the regular
Yeah.
season as well,
Yeah.
too, remember?
After
And
the
they didn't get
first
a
round, they
sniff
were
last.
like 48%.
Almost 50%.
Yeah, and then Stratford knocked them down to about, I think it was like 22-25%.
Now Stratford did a great job. On
Really
penalty
good.
kill, too.
Really good.
They did.
It was just unfortunate that Stratford's power play went ice cold. They didn't
Sure.
score a goal the last 4 games, but I'm just so impressed. Like you go down St. Mary's' top 6 scorers. Not one of them's a rookie. As where you look at Chatham's top 6 scorers, you got 3 rookies in there, and so that's why I've said like all season long, St. Mary's is built to win. Like I don't know what it's going to be like if they get by. I know it's only 1 game, but these guys like. There's a reason why you've gone out and paid good money to get Lincoln Moore. And if he gets going, he had 2 assists there last night. Finally, he's hopefully coming around, right? Because he didn't have a great series against London.
They did not.
And
That whole line was not good, and I thought that was another big part of the comeback by London, is that the second line was getting dominated.
yeah,
Yeah, really
defensively.
bad defensively in our zone. I know in the section I was sitting, a lot of the parents, they were having fits that they were on the ice at certain times.
Right.
Well, that was at our side of the arena too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
that
so
wasn't
yeah,
localized.
It was everywhere then. Yeah,
Observation, right?
Yeah, Game 6,
Observation.
Game 7. They were on the ice Game 7 late. I think 2.5 minutes left, and I thought some of the people's heads were going to explode in our area, but
Yeah,
they all worked out.
especially the way the other couple of lines were playing. I thought in Game 7, Spagnolo on the face-off was unbelievable.
Unreal.
Did he even lose
Spagnolo,
one
Unreal.
single
he
face-off?
was honestly running probably a 90% face-off.
Like I said,
Yeah.
I even at the
It was
time, I'm trying to
stupid.
run it through my mind. Is like, have I even seen him lose a face-off? There
thing
were a
that-
couple that were scrummed,
Yeah.
but I don't recall
The
him.
thing that I love though
Unbelievable.
is he sets up his line. I need you here, I need you here, and they just go. They go. He looks back and forth, and away you go, and he gets that face-off. Not exaggerating, 90% of the time.
well, and he's willing to go into the dirty areas. Like the second goal of the game, he was standing on the doorstep and got a greasy goal mouth rebound goal. Like he's only it says 5'10". I don't think he's 5'10".
No.
Who's that?
No,
Spags.
No,
So I
Chris
bet
said
you
he's
he's like
5'7".
I bet you he's
He's 5'7".
5'7",
Might be
5'8"
5'10".
tops.
5'8" with skates.
Yeah, and but he plays like he's 6'2", 220. Like
Do
he's
you know who
just
he
got a
kinda
heart
reminds
of a
me
lion.
a different element of character of a player, but smaller, plays big, like a Darcy Tucker.
At 100%.
And
100.
That's one of the biggest compliments you can get, because Darcy Tucker had no business being that physical in the NHL, and here he is, or was.
Mhm.
But Spags is
With gifted
just
hands.
Like, it's hard to wrap your head around a player that size in this league. against teams like London, against teams like Chatham, and never mind the other ones. But when you're in an elimination round, and just when he's hurt, I think we talked about that.
Yep.
Because he's a little less effective.
Yep.
To what he usually is.
Yeah, it doesn't show up openly. It just shows up collectively in the fact of his lack of impact on the game.
Like, I could see him getting better and healthier against London because he made one play. I think it was game 5, I'm going to say. It was in St. Mary's. And I was watching the replays on the 519, and he was going down off wing, and there was 2 nationals in between him and Lee. Lee's on his off wing. And Spags just backhanded a saucer pass over both national sticks, sucks the ice, and Lee one-timed it. And Wexstrom game 3. Wexstrom couldn't get over in time, but it was just such a great play by Spags. And then you throw in the toughness and his leadership. Like, this kid is on a mission, to take the Lincolns to the promised land.
I have very limited exposure to the St. Mary's Lincolns. Completely impressed by the players, everything, the coaching, it's just everything. It's such a healthy environment over there. Being there last night, you run into, you can tell, the quote unquote the old boys club, the directors and friendly hello and all that. Like, what a beautiful experience it is. Without sounding too dramatic, it's something to see. And I mean, take your chances to try to get a ticket to the next game. But
right.
It's so worth the drive down if you're in Stratford to try to observe that type of game.
This year's St. Mary's Lincolns are last year's Listowel Cyclones. Listowel had great goaltending, great defense, and great offense. St. Mary's, they are even better than Listowel than last year. I think Lincolns are gonna beat Chatham in 6 games. I think the matchup that is gonna happen this Stanley Cup will be Lincolns and 40 meters rematch from the round robin last year. I think that'll be a great series, and then the Lincolns, they're gonna win. Like, they will win, and then they haven't won since 90 something. They haven't won a trophy on home ice. So their goal, I think, for the this round should be win on home ice, win in front of 1,400 people, and they're going to win, I know.
Rhett, I appreciate everything you're saying. I see it. I guess it's at this point we have to leave it in their hands, right?
Yeah. I mean, leave it to Bradley and leave it to the players, and
I think we're in good hands.
Yeah, I think they'll do the job.
I know I'm always late to the party with your team, but a guy that stood out painfully last night was Kelp, your defenseman.
Oh, he's been so good all year.
He is such an anchor for you guys, and I have the Google of the St. Mary's Lincoln standing beside me every game that I've been at with Holly, and I ask him about certain players, and he
That's the nicest thing you said about me, I think.
Pretty good.
Well, no, but he's I'm just saying, like, it's just something to just get your eyes open to when you go to another town and you see other environments and other teams, and the energy and love for the St. Mary's Lincolns when you go into your environment is absolutely contagious. Like, we're going back out for game 2, and that might be the last opportunity for this series, but we'll see.
Here's my opinion. I think Chatham's and the Lincolns are the best 2 fan atmospheres in the league. Because if you go down to Chatham, I'd say it's worse than St. Mary's.
I know for a fact when Les hears this, he's going to be grinding his teeth about Chatham.
How does that go again? I believe we're talking about the hostile environment.
The
that is the Chatham Memorial Arena.
And
Les almost got into an altercation while he was on the air for the Warriors.
And
did you hear it?
Yeah, I did.
What happened?
Well, I didn't hear. I heard the story, but I didn't literally hear it.
He's literally on the air. I'm listening to it, and Les is going, and so to so. We got a little bit of something going on beside me, and then you hear him kind of put his hand over the microphone and going, I'm trying to do a job here, like just in the middle of a play.
Like the fans are getting on the radio guy. I mean, come on, man. That's, like, Les is just sitting there trying to call the game, and these guys are on him about it.
They're like Philly fans, because people got to remember that in Philly, they booed Santa Claus. Like, they're throwing snowballs at him and booing him, but tough crowd.
Yeah, I mean, Chatham has a really unique fans. I mean, Holly, if you're going to the game on Sunday, Here, I'll give you some pointers. There's no air horns allowed. Do not sit
I
near
don't own an air horn.
Do not sit here near the benches. Do not sit near that far end, and then you have to stand by where the Zamboni is, because those are the worst spots to sit in Chatham, because the fans are just yell, F word after F word after F word, and I'm surprised Wells didn't get in a fight.
They were pretty vocal last night.
And then they blow
Especially
air
behind
horns
the
during
bench
the middle
there.
of the play, and
Well,
it's just
and
zoo.
and Rhett, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh,
We
sorry.
saw
I
them.
think it was Lee that went in. He had a shorthanded breakaway and went in and crashed into the goaltender.
Yeah.
And that's when the F-bombs came out, Rhett. They were pretty much convinced that Lee, while on a
Yep,
breakaway, shorthanded in the conference final,
Crashed
forgot
the goalie.
about any opportunity to score and just rammed into the goalie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
You
think it
know-
was a woman with summer teeth that we were looking at.
Oh,
with,
yes.
maroon
You know,
hoodie.
summer in,
good,
summer out,
summer
right?
bad.
Summer here, summer there.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
That's a Saturday night.
yeah,
in
it's
Chatham.
but
Right?
you know, you could tell right away. The first guy I saw was wearing a Chatham Maroons jersey with the number 420 on the back.
Oh,
And
he was
so-
getting ready.
And I went, okay, so every town's got their,
Your 69s
shall we
and
say,
your
passionate
420s.
fans.
Yeah.
You know, I think the 420 even tops Shoresy's number, frankly, to be honest with you. But you just knew, you could tell right away there were a lot of Chatham
A
jerseys.
different
There were a lot of people
sophistication
wearing,
of fans, let's
wearing
put it that
what do we
way.
call that, burgundy or what have you, crimson.
Maroon.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Maroon
don't want
color,
people getting hostile with me on colors. I'm not real good. But
Ron Burgundy.
anyway, they have a passionate fan base. They've been around for a very, very long time. And those of us old fellas can remember all the way back to the big
the
goal
the Micmacs.
Yep.
when they were the Micmacs,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so,
Wiseman days.
Oh.
you know,
It was-
that's-
It looks like Hunter has found his rhythm too. Like
well, he
from
played so well in 6
He's
and
a
7 against
good
Stratford.
Yeah.
goalie. He
Like,
played well last night. He
That,
did.
that's what I was seeing on the highlights. Like he made as Les would say, a couple of 10-bell saves when you guys had when St. Mary's had a 2-man advantage. But Armelin matched him save for save too, right? Like I saw a couple. He made Gillis undressed Montesi, and then he came in all alone on Armelin down at your end and made a great save. And he made another big save on McChesney when he was at the side of the net. Like, so as good as Hunter has started the series, Armelin's matching him save for save.
Yeah, I honestly think they'll go with de Blasi though.
Really?
I do.
Next game, eh?
That'd
I
be
think
the right
they will.
decision in my
I
mind.
think
They should go to
will.
Blasi.
Because they did
Yep.
that in
Wow.
round one. They did that in round one. Or sorry, against Stratford, did they
They
not?
did it in Stratford,
Game-
but I don't think
They
Hunter
lost
was
the-
playing as good though.
But I think they only gave up 3 goals the one game, and then they took him out and put de Blasi in. I wouldn't be shocked if they put de Blasi in Sunday.
Well, then they put de
Interesting.
Blasi in a game 4 and he got blown up in
Yeah.
the first period.
Yeah.
So
But
That was
three goals
the
on
He
four
got
shots
chased
or something.
3
They might
goals on
just-
3 shots.
on 3
and-
shots.
and
that was the
then,
turnstile game where 4
Yeah.
goalies
Oh,
were in
yeah.
the first period.
Yeah.
The only problem with Hunter playing well is that isn't good enough.
No.
No,
Like
right.
the only reason that went 7 was Wexstrom. I mean,
Yeah. Right.
really, you could talk
Fair.
about the flaws in St. Mary's game, but they don't even get out of game 4 if Wexstrom doesn't stand
That's
on his
fair.
head in the second
That's
period.
very true.
It should have been 4-0 St. Mary's after 2 periods in game 4.
Yep.
Like
But
it could have,
Wexstrom was unbelievable. Forget about all the net knocking off, whatever. The kid played fantastic.
like it could have got away earlier too. I was watching on those highlights where you guys are up 2-0. Vortman's coming in, and he lets a wrister go, glove side, and Hunter just flashed the leather. Like that was labeled for the top shelf, and he snared that one. Vortman gets a penalty shot after
Can we talk about
Chadwick.
the penalty? As much
Yeah,
as
we
we
can
love
talk. Right.
Vortman, can we talk about the penalty shot?
Please do.
I
I'll
want
let
to
you
tell you a
explain
story
that.
about my 1 and only penalty shot. I was in Brownie.
Rotary Y.
Yeah, Rotary Y. I was in Brownie B. I was like 9, 8, something like that. And it was the end of the game, and it was the playoffs, and we were down a goal, and 3
Eastwood
seconds left.
Restaurant.
And I was, I don't know, they didn't have
JS
actually,
News.
we were the Blues against the Yellows, in those days. Black and white TV days.
Or was it the Pickwick?
So there was the player jumped on the puck in the crease, penalty shot, 3 seconds left. The coach points at me, gets me to take it. And I already had a goal in the game, and I was, I could shoot pretty good. And I came in, and I'm a right-handed shot, and I let that shot go. And boy, howdy, did it make a big-ass noise when I hit the boards 4 feet wide of the net. And that penalty shot last night
Yeah.
ran shudders down my spine because it looked a lot like mine
Yeah.
because I wasn't I couldn't see on an angle, but it sure looked like he missed the
The
net
look
by
on
3
your
feet.
face
It did.
when
Yeah,
you
he
missed the
missed the
net.
That's
you
why.
just calmly look back at me and you go, "Aren't you supposed to hit the net on the
That
penalty shot?"
that was unexpected, and like I said, it just gave me a flashback to when I was 8 years old. My one and only penalty shot. I did the exact same thing, missed the net by the same thing. We love Bortman. He'll be great. He'll score, so we can bust his chops a
Well,
little bit.
he's
about
lights out blocker side high. How
What-
many goals?
what
has
did
he
I say?
scored?
Right.
Lights out.
He scored it in
literally.
game 2
I
in
turned
London,
to Les, I
opening
went
goal.
blocker high, and that's how he
That's
scored.
exactly
Yes.
what he said before he
blocker side
went
high.
in on the.
He's got at least half dozen goals that way.
Because I yelled that to Les last night before the penalty shot. I went, he's going 100%. He's going to shoot.
That's what we thought.
not wide right.
But he came
Yeah,
in
well,
blocker side, though. He came in
Yeah.
wide blocker side and then tried to, because he's a left shot, he tried to pull it across his body and go low glove side, and he missed the
That's
whole
why
net.
I was feeling so encouraged about him going in, is the fact he's a left shot.
Yes.
There's so many
I
different
guess he was
opportunities.
maybe trying to draw the goalie over
Well,
to
Gannon
that
was
side.
Gannon was playing on his block. Like he was thinking blocker.
Well,
too,
so
I
many
think.
goalies
Yeah,
do that,
yeah.
right? Where they love to shade blocker and say, "I dare you to shoot it glove side."
Well, it's like
I
playing
remember-
Eddie Matthews on Sunday morning. They'll give you the 5-hole and take it away.
Yep, exactly. So,
Or just continue.
So, yeah.
Keep giving it to you.
like I said, I'm sure that Bortman's teammates may or may not have mentioned it in the room after the game, giving him a hard time about it. Like I said, we love the kid. He's a top 10 player in the league. So I feel comfortable, kind of busting his chops.
It's a lot easier to talk about it when they win, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If
Well
we
said.
lost by a goal, we would be all over
Yeah.
poor Owen. But
Fair enough.
No, and it's good. I'm glad to see Richter back. I know he came back for Game 7 against Stratford, but Chatham needs him,
I'll
right?
tell you
like
what,
it's all
those are-
hands on
he's
deck.
still hurt.
He's still hurting because I watched him very closely in the warm-up, and he took one wrist shot, and it was not hard.
Grimacing.
And so he can still skate, he can still stick handle, but
Yeah,
Is
because
that
that's
who's
not,
Spags?
that's
Uh,
not the Richter.
because it's his
Yeah.
right shoulder. Like watching him go off the ice, and it was a very, innocuous hit. It wasn't like a vicious hit in Stratford. And watching him bend over, going off the ice, holding his right shoulder, and he's a right-hand shot, so that's where all his power's coming from. And it's just going to be tough for him. Like I know myself what my right shoulder feels like having surgery on it, but give the kid credit for
He's
gutting
not the
it
same
out.
guy, though. That's
So
for
Holly,
sure.
when Spags took his penalty against him last night, it looked
And
like
then his
he
knee
was
was hurt. To
shot.
be honest with you, I was almost prepared for a major penalty there. To be honest,
Yeah.
I knew it had to be at least
knew it
4.
was
So
four.
Spags got a double minor, 4
Yeah.
minutes for kneeing,
Which is-
but it probably
Well,
would
it
have
was
been-
consistent to the Pomerleau penalty in Game
Sure.
7. It was the same knee. It was if it wasn't malicious, it was careless, which in my book is the same thing.
Sure. Sure.
So 4 minutes was fair. 5 minutes would have sucked. I thought maybe it would have been an overreaction, but when you're dealing with junior hockey, you have to be prepared for officiating overreacting.
So 2 of the best penalty killers with Spags and Lee. And then what happens with 2 minutes left in Spags' penalty? Lee takes a hooking.
That was a
Yeah,
bad call.
And then they're down. That's a hooking penalty already shorthanded 200 feet from your net. There's
like-
all kinds of ways to take that.
And there was about 45 other hooks that
yeah.
could have called
Right.
that game.
Well, and then if we're going to talk officiating, and I didn't think
Why
it was
is
a bad
Alfred
job.
and St. Mary's 2 nights in a row?
That's a
I
good
just
question.
all I'm saying is
100%.
the first penalty of the night is something that maybe is worth discussing
This is
because I have never in my life experienced a blindside hit penalty. And now somebody told me that the puck was not close to the player when he hit him. They were on the other side. We couldn't see it because the puck was blind to us. We couldn't see the puck for the boards, so we don't know where the puck was when Coops hit him. But still, he had made this motion like it was 2 minutes for charging. When they announced the penalty, they called it 2 minutes for a blindside hit.
Never heard of it.
And I have never heard of that before, but I am not a rules guy either. So
Well,
I think it's
Clifford was the ref that called it, and he looked bewildered after he called that because he didn't know what he was going to call it.
Oh, Alfred.
Or Alfred?
Alfred, yeah.
Was it Clifford Alfred?
well, like I said, if
Alfred.
he calls it
Alfred.
if he calls it a charge or a board or something like that,
I thought
I don't
boarding.
like the penalty, but whatever. It's it's one of the calls in the game of 60 minutes. But when he called it blindside hit, that's when everybody in the crowd went.
Everyone's getting their books out and
I
they got
could have
their
sworn
phones out.
Googling.
the
to see
season
either-
was
what is that
over. To
called?
be honest with you, I remember Buffalo Bills defensive back getting a blindside hit 15-yard penalty, but I don't recall seeing
Well,
one.
when Grass comes over between periods too, and he's been in the penalty box for how many years, and he's heard every call there is. He says he's never ever heard of it, and I've never heard of it. I've coached for years. You coached.
Right.
I've never heard of that call.
Blindside hit,
Yeah.
and then you play the NFL theme song for Sunday.
Right.
football.
Yeah, I was waiting for the Monday night Monday Night Football theme coming up.
Please, Mine.
Dun-dun.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
Well, it's a
creative.
great start.
Yeah.
They're going down to Chatham Sunday
Sunday.
for game 2, game 3 back in
Tuesday.
St. Mary's on Tuesday, and then game 4. What is it?
Thursday in
and
Chatham.
then
Thursday.
back if necessary. Friday back home. At
Yeah.
St. Mary's. So.
They're
I
looking
think
good.
this series is a long way from being over.
Well,
to be
you-
honest with
you
I
know,
do too.
As my old pappy used to say, one hot day does not a summer make. So you can't judge a series based on that. I will echo what Rhett said. If St. Mary's plays like that all series, it won't be a long series. It won't be a long series at all. So we went through some picks for that series, I think, last night.
Yes.
Do we have them written down
I know
somewhere?
who y'all picked, so I can't wait to see you guys all.
Well, I've got to say
Stratford,
the
Stratford,
results
Stratford.
of our round 2 picks. So we had Les and myself. We ended up going 2 for 4, and Halser, you were 2 for 4 as well, and Jeff, you were 1 for 4.
I just want to say one thing.
You went
About- I just want to say one thing about the London Stratford series.
London
I gave-
Stratford,
What?
London St. Mary's, or Stratford Chatham.
Stratford. What did I say? Oh, it doesn't matter. I went 1 for 4. Whatever.
You had
Sorry.
you had St. Mary's right.
Yeah.
You had St. Mary's right, but you had
Stratford wrong.
Stratford, Brantford, and then you went with Caledonia.
Ooh.
Everyone had Caledonia.
I
Yeah,
didn't.
and I'm so
And everyone had
disappointed in myself.
Stratford.
So
Thanks,
disappointed
Chess.
in myself.
I had Chatham, I think, didn't I?
I have.
Or you didn't have.
You
Not in the
didn't.
books.
All
You
you
were
said
just
was St.
online.
Mary's.
I said Chatham in the
I
chat.
went with
You were
Okay,
online,
I didn't.
yeah.
I didn't see
I went
that.
with my heart instead of my head. I felt like Chatham would win the series, but I thought maybe Stratford could pull it off and make this dream series that we've all been hoping for all winter happen.
So
So-
Next year.
both Les and I had St. Mary's in 7, which turned out. So Les is 9 for 12. I'm 8 for 12.
And then 1 for 4.
You're 1 for 4, and Halser's 9 for 12 as well. And then Rhett, you're 1 for 1 with.
Yeah.
I'm really kicking myself about that Fort Erie series because that's the same Fort Erie team we saw last year. And St. Mary's pumped them early this year, 5-0, but that's all the way back in October.
It's different. I
So-
think, are we going to get into that?
Well, yeah, we'll talk about the East. Like I say, we had some.
So it's a wrap
picks
on
ready.
Lincoln talk at this point.
Anything else you want to talk about the Lynx Rat?
Had to Chatham Sunday night. I want to hear all the Lynx fans there.
Attaboy.
I like it.
I have one
Attaboy.
last thought on the St. Mary's situation. I would be remiss when I mention the hierarchy of St. Mary's without mentioning Brandon Boyd, their president.
Good call.
I think that a lot of the growth that's happened with this hockey club has happened under his.
How long has he been in his position? Ish. 2 years?
4
3
years?
4 years?
He's done an incredible job.
This is either year 3 or year 4, around the same time that I started showing up there on a regular basis. And I have to tell a Brandon Boyd story.
We got time.
From last year when the Lynx won Game 7 in London and then the round robin started with Listowel and Fort Erie. I was working a part-time job out at the golf course and was anticipating that I could go and get a ticket and go watch the Fort Erie game like I have been all this time. And I show up and they won't let me in the building because they're sold out because they got in trouble the night before the last game
remember
with the Listowel game.
Yeah.
They let in way too many people. The fire department gave them. Happens all the time in hockey where they say, don't you let that many people in again. They had to tell Strathroy that a couple of weeks ago when they let in
Tilsonburg,
when-
Trey was saying that last
Tilsonburg
season.
when they let in about 2,000 people to a barn that holds 1,100.
Oh, boy.
Stratford Game 7 against Leamington when people are literally, hundreds of people are sitting on the stairs because there's no
Yeah.
place else to sit.
Well, I had to go to the washroom and I couldn't.
Yeah, anyways.
Didn't want to lose your
Um,
spot.
I sent an email off to Brandon. As a season ticket holder, I said to him, I would like to think that those of us who were, and I really was being as nice as I could about it because I have absolutely no complaint otherwise with the St. Mary's experience. But I said, as a season ticket holder, that one of the guys who's here when it's -10 in January and they're playing Kamoka, and I'm still there, I would like to think that I'd be able to get into the building to see the Sutherland Cup round robin. And I'm wondering if there's anything we can do moving forward. He said, he sent back an email that same morning, to his credit, also said, that might have been the nicestly phrased complaint I have ever received in my lifetime. And the next home game, they put in place policy that season ticket holders get a half an hour ahead of everybody else to get their tickets. And I have seen it several times now, not the least of which was Game 7, when I walk in to buy my tickets between 5 and 5:30, and there's a lineup around the corner and out the door for the non-season ticket holders to get their tickets. And I thought, you know what? He addressed an issue right away, nicely, concisely, and it hasn't been a problem since. And so I have had several conversations, including one I had with him last night. When I went into the building for Game 7, I was hobbled a little bit with my crutches still, with my back injury, and he said, how are you? And I said, well, I'm kind of like your hockey club, man, and I'm going to be fine. And he came up to me before Game 1 last night, and he said, you know what, you were right, we were fine. So I just want to give a shout out to Brandon.
I thought you were going to request an elevator be put in or something.
No, because you just baby steps. Baby
That's
steps.
next year.
First, I get a ticket to get in, and then I'll start dictating the terms of my attendance. But he has been so fantastic for this franchise. He's the right temperament. He's very committed. He's a sharp guy, and he's always got time for the fan who will just sit and have a chat with you. And I think that's just fantastic. And I think it's a top-down driven environment in St. Mary's, and he's at the top driving it down. So big shout-out to Brandon Boyd, president of the
And
club.
he's your boss, too, right?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, so Brett will always talk nice about him.
I mean, there's so much to
he's
be
the
said
lord
for
of
that.
the
I mean,
horn.
it absolutely beams when you go there. And I'm not saying it's just about one person, but like you say, and I think it's so true, is I think it's in any business, because let's face it, the hockey's a product, the business is what it is. And when you run the business correctly, everything else just falls into place. And when you have the appropriate leaders and the people who are in charge of making decisions that can make the betterment of the experience, the product, everything else, I think St. Mary's is a good example of that. I see it as a very casual visitor to that environment. So congrats.
Yeah. Well, let's get through who our picks are going to be. Les picked St. Mary's in 6. I picked St. Mary's in 7. Jeff, you picked him in 5. Halser, you picked St. Mary's in 5. Chess, how many games are you picking the Lynx?
I'm going to go 7.
7?
Wait, are you taking St. Mary's?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to be clear on that.
And then Rhett, how many did you say?
St. Mary's in 6.
6. All right, so we've got the Lynx with all of them. Going into, I'll say who our 4 picks are for the East with St. Catharines and Fort Erie. Les has St. Catharines in 7. I'm going to pick an upset. I'm going to go with Fort Erie in 7 because they've got the number 1 goalie right now based on save percentage. He's hot as a firecracker.
3 shutouts in 4 games.
Yeah. And
is it John Lloyd? It's Lloyd. Anyways.
Lloyd, yeah. And I think you're right. I think it is John Lloyd.
Don't see many Johns
Just-
anymore. People don't name their kids John anymore.
No. Jeff, you've got Fort Erie in 7 as well. Halser, you've got Fort Erie in 6.
I learned my lesson.
Jess, who are you taking?
I'm going Fort Erie in 6.
Fort
I
Erie.
love the way they play the game.
Fort
And I
Erie
think,
in
They
6.
played a very similar game to St.
Yep.
Mary's, frankly.
And I think St. Catharines has had way too much downtime.
Well,
Too much
and they're gonna
easy
get- they're gonna
opponents.
Well, they've gone from the 8 seed to the 7 seed, right?
Yeah,
Thanks
and they're
to
going to get punched in the face.
thanks
Fort
to
Erie
their-
plays a tough physical game, and they got good, like you said, good goaltending, and they're well coached. They're gonna
and that
give
top
St.
line, the Adamo brothers,
Oh.
and that
Yes.
beauty Tonelli. I love
he's
watching
great.
that kid play
Yeah.
hockey, Sam Tonelli.
Well, the
Reminds me of
young
another
Adamo,
Tonelli.
he's one of the top 3 in scoring, if I'm not mistaken. But
There's Kyle, and is it Danny?
Danny.
yeah,
I think Danny's the younger one. Don't
Yeah.
quote me on that, but
I've got it written down in
Yeah,
my
I got
notes.
it.
But Rhett, who are you taking?
Fort Erie in 7.
Fort Erie in
All
7.
right.
All right.
I have a ton of respect for St. Catharines. A fun fact that I just found out myself. St. Catharines has 30 Golden Horseshoe Championships.
Wow.
That's amazing to me. Like over the last
That's like
45, 48
Culleton
years.
Warrior numbers.
I'm not sure Stratford's got that many,
No.
to be honest with you.
St. Catharines is the
30.
one that used to have the striped socks and the kind of
Yeah, they still do,
They're
I think.
still the
Still the
Falcons.
same, eh?
And,
Yeah.
you know, did you not play the Falcons?
We played the Falcons on route.
Yeah.
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 We played them in the semis, and then
Well,
Didn't they beat you? They were one of the teams.
well, yeah, they beat us one
They-
game.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like they were one of the few teams
The-
that
Yeah.
had 85,
Like
86.
Holland.
So they were one of only two teams. The Siskins beat us twice in the regular season early in the year, and then the Falcons beat us
St. Catharines
once.
was the only team
Like-
that beat you in the playoffs.
and
Yeah,
Holly,
correct.
you'll remember this because
I'm
the
old.
year that Reuter won the scored the goal that beat that was Chatham. No, what was this? Streetsville, and then it was St. Catharines. Streetsville was the one before. Was that you guys?
Yeah, that was us in
And then
85,
you-
86.
And then you beat
And then we-
St. Catharines in 4.
We beat St. Catharines in 5 games.
In
They
5.
won
It
one,
was short.
and then we swept Streetsville in the finals.
It was the other way around.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Okay.
So, but by far, like the biggest series was getting by St. Thomas.
Yeah.
Like they were, even though we swept St. Thomas, they were all like 1-goal games, overtime
And
games.
not just one goal, but like 9-8
Yeah,
games.
like it
neither
was
team could
crazy.
stop the
Yeah.
other. That was crazy.
It was crazy, but
But St. Catharines has everything they need to win a Sutherland Cup. I'm taking Fort Erie because of their experience and the way they're playing the game and their hot goalie. But St. Catharines still has the number one guy for save percentage or goals against, I believe, for the playoffs. They still have that Duplessis kid. I love that kid, man. He
Yeah,
reminds
Nathan
me-
Duplessis.
I'm not going to say he plays like Eric Lindros, but he makes me think of Eric Lindros. The kid is 6'3", 230. That's what he's listed at,
Head
anyways.
down.
yeah.
And he plays it like in this. Air has a big defenseman, 20-year-old kid named McKellar. When I went and watched them on a Thursday night, I wanted to go see St. Catharines and Air play, and it was worth my drive, definitely. And the puck went behind the Air net. Duplessis and McKellar went back together. McKellar's a big kid.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
over
he's
200 pounds
6'1".
as well. And they went in and collided, and McKellar got displaced. I'm not saying he got blown up. I'm saying he literally got knocked in the air and moved over 4 feet. He was displaced. And Duplessis just grabbed this puck, slammed it in front of the net, right to Mustafi, bang, 1-0. I'm just going, wow. I remember seeing Eric Lindros do that exact same play to Peter Svoboda back in the day in the old Buffalo Odd. And
Like you've
they're
got
a tough team, man. They're tough.
You've got 3 of the top 4 goalies in the playoffs on the remaining 4 teams.
What a
The only one is
coincidence.
Hunter, who, like I said, he didn't have a great series against Stratford, but he's starting to turn it on. But you've got the number 1 save percentage is John Lloyd. He's got a .942 save percentage with Fort Erie. And then number 2 is St. Catharines goalie Hayden Jeffrey at .934.
He's a big kid, too.
Yes.
He's 6'3" at least.
Yeah, but that St. Catharines, big firepowers. They got 3 20-year-olds. Cam Lowe with 16 points. He's tied with Hodkinson for the lead in the playoffs. Then you got Brendan Grenville and Duplessis, like you had said. Those 3 guys are St. Catharines' top 3 scorers.
Keep in mind, they did that in 9 games, albeit against lower-level opponents.
But their top scorers, St. Catharines, 4 through 8, 3 of them are defensemen, and 2 of them are rookies. Like, you know, you've got Ali Mustafi and Trent Gates, a couple of 17-year-olds that are playing well, and then you've got 3 defensemen, Hibbert, Moore, and Dimitro. So those guys, like, they're ready to go. But then Fort Erie, they've got 3 rookies too in their top 6 scoring. You got Jack Ryan and Sam Tonelli that you had mentioned leading it, but they've only got 10 and 9 points. Like, they're not tearing up the playoffs.
In fairness, their first round was against Cambridge, and we talk about imported goalies like Wexstrom. That Leonard, I believe it's Nisa, I believe it's pronounced, straight from Germany.
He was a big deal.
And I
Didn't
remember
he
our
play for the
playoff
juniors?
pregame show where
German,
Clarkie sat in this chair
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
and he said, watch out for Cambridge's goaltender. And he was absolutely right, because one of the losses, like it ended up being a 6-game series, But that was a shutout, like a 43 save shutout. He absolutely stood on his head
Right.
in that game, stole it, totally stole that game. And so they've had some, Fort Erie's had a tough road, a tough goaltender in Cambridge, and a tough team in Caledonia, and they won 8 out of 10 games.
I would think the guy that Fort Erie's got to worry about is Cam Lowe. In 9 games, he's got 16 points, tied for the league, like I said. But on the power play, he's really dangerous. 2 goals and 4 assists. So
Yeah.
it looks like the power play goes through 20-year-old Cam Lowe with St. Catharines. But
Yeah, like I say, those numbers are a little tempered because I thought the closest there was to a first-round bye was the Hamilton Kilty Bees. They were just, I think I called them the most uninteresting team I've ever seen. They didn't have one single scorer in the top 40. They didn't have a goaltender that had any statistic in the top 20 in the league. And yet there they are in the playoffs.
right.
And so that's a perfect matchup for St. Catharines.
Just to fact check you live, usually do it online.
Oh, yeah, well, you're my guy, right?
So the Adamo brothers. So Kyle is the older one. So he's in his final year. He's in 04.
I said Danny was the younger one.
Yeah, I think
Didn't
you're
I?
right.
Yeah.
I'm just clarifying. Make sure everyone knows that you're right.
All right.
And then Danny, he's in 08.
That's why we
I
like
didn't
that.
realize he's in
He only
08.
speaks up when I'm
16-year-old.
right. That's fine. That's a Trump fact checker right there.
That's right. But yeah, I didn't realize there's 4 years difference between the two boys.
That's cool.
But
That's
he's
wild.
he's got 2 goals and 2 assists on the power play
Yep.
already.
He's
so,
playing on that top line.
Yeah.
They're deep. They're gonna. I tell you, that's why we're picking them.
Dylan Coors, he's one of their defensemen. He's third
Oh,
in
wow.
scoring on Fort Erie, 20-year-old defenseman. So
Points, wow.
they've got a lot.
Yeah. All right.
All right, folks. Well, I think we're going to go to break. And,
That, ladies and gentlemen, is how you spend an hour and 15 minutes.
right, talking
Just
about
like that.
our sister team in
Yeah.
Perth County.
Wow.
So
'Tis the season. It's fantastic.
it is.
Absolutely.
It would have been, in a perfect situation, it would have been great to have Stratford St. Mary's, but
What about St. Mary's Listowel second round? I would have liked that instead of London.
yeah, it's,
Revenge.
Lots,
Yeah.
lots of possibilities.
They're
I-
at home. That's revenge.
I like
Good. They
I
should
like
be.
the revenge factor that they didn't win a single playoff game.
That was nice
Yeah.
to see.
so. Well, that's great. We'll go to break, and then what are we going to come back with? Irish.
NHL.
Or-
I thought we'd do a little NHL while these guys. are
Okay,
here,
all right. We'll
and
do
then
some NHL. We'll
start
keep
there.
them round, and then maybe
Last segment would be
yeah.
Little Irish.
so.
Not a little, a lot.
Lots
yeah.
to talk about there too.
Yeah.
All right, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Twisted mule always gets my shit confused. the valley low. For every highway I ride, there's a rocky road. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. You've got me beat, you've got me broken, right down to my soul.
East is Toronto, Ottawa, Tampa.
Pretty friendly.
Yeah. Washington. I think your Habs could be the upsetter. I really do.
I appreciate that.
I think.
I do too.
That's
People are
going to be a
laughing.
sexy upset pick.
Yeah. Carolina.
Wow, it is, but people
so
wouldn't
much
understand.
better.
What's the difference between?
Back's
It's
broken
the
on
difference
that
between
chair.
the reaction of, oh yeah, I get it, or
Do you guys, I guess I'll leave it up to you guys if you want to stick around for the Irish talk or if you want us to go for breaks so you can leave or.
Okay.
Yeah. So after
That's
after
fair.
the predictions here, we'll go to quick commercial.
Yeah, we'll
You
go
guys
to a
get
quick
it?
break.
No worries. I get it, man.
Well, show up at the rink tomorrow night and see Zach Magwood play hockey.
Are we on? Racer?
Just no.
I guess that's even more of a reason to go watch hockey. Besides, WrestleMania is going to be on for what, 5 hours?
It's night one.
I'll let you. I'm going to accept that because when I was your age, I was also a wrestling fan. The part I don't get is those 50-year-old guys who go crazy about it, hosting these WrestleMania parties. You're 50, dude.
Are we gonna do the sponsors, Razor?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me know.
And I think we're good.
Thanks for a great first chapter panel. A really good job, and we always get great feedback of the input of the Greater Ontario Junior Hockey League. Right.
Attaboy.
Before we get into our NHL preview for the playoffs, we're just going to take a few minutes to acknowledge our great and generous sponsors that help us through this season. One of which is SBS Metals, metal fabrication with professional craftsmanship. Stratford's preferred custom commercial and residential metal fabricator. Kathy and Dennis, thank you so much for your generosity. And they invite you to their social media channels to check out their custom work and opportunities.
Domino's Pizza, the official pizza of the Armchair Chirpers. 2 locations at 406 Ontario and 536 Huron Street.
Joe's Diner, the official breakfast and lunch dinner diner of the Armchair Chirpers, home of the world famous Perth County breakfast, locally owned by the Myers family. They look forward to your visit soon.
We were just there last night.
Yeah.
Brock Chessel saying, I don't know if you guys are off break, but it's a black screen.
We're good. I got one.
We got it? All right. Brighter Vision Counseling, Psychology, and Wellness, providing compassionate and effective counseling services to individuals and families in need. They provide a safe and supportive environment where everyone can heal and grow.
Janet Lange, out of the Office of Home and Company here in Stratford, servicing Stratford and surrounding area. She has coined the phrase, putting the real in real estate, the official realtor/broker of the Armchair Chirpers.
Bentley's Bar, Inn, and Restaurant, the official bar and restaurant of the Armchair Chirpers. 20 draft beers on tap, daily food specials, a fabulous place to spend the night in their lofts or executive suite. Locally owned and operated by the Bentley family.
And last but not least, the Urban Barber, established 2019. Full service barbershop, 3 barbers ready to serve you, appointment based. We encourage you to go on to social media to our channels to make an appointment through our new app, Squire. If you do have any questions, please reach out, 519-275-4334. We look forward to seeing you soon.
All right. Well, we've got a couple of guests here that we wanted to get their input for our next segment. Who is going to win their round for the first round of the NHL? We've got some great matchups. We've got Winnipeg, who ran away with it.
Sorry, just 1 second. We are getting into one of the best times of the
Agreed.
year.
Where the Leafs will be out in the first round again.
Okay, well, let's just backstep a
I had
little
to,
bit.
sorry.
I wasn't
This
excited enough.
No, you gotta sell it a little bit.
I had to.
This is the absolute best time of the year, and all the chips are down with so many teams, and all of our favorites, are almost in, Holly.
Some of
we,
our
we,
favorites.
we love
Yeah,
you,
somebody's missing.
but man, oh man, are we not ready?
Couple teams are.
Are we not ready for this time of year? If you're a
Wow.
hockey fan, you love it, even if your team isn't in, like mine has not been. But anyways, yeah.
All the-
Razor.
all
It's
the-
so awesome. this
All
time
of the
year.
Leaf haters are all starting to rub their hands, and they're just getting ready to rain on our team. And
Getting the popcorn ready.
I know we've talked about it, but it's interesting. It has to be fate, because the last time you had Boston, Detroit, and the Rangers not make the playoffs was 1967.
What happened that year, Razor?
Right? Well, that's the year that Toronto last won the Stanley Cup. So it just happened that happened again this year. So they're all lining up. It's the year of the Leaf. Like
Plus,
we're
you guys
taking.
have camp, right? So it's
Well, it's the first time
destined.
in NHL history that the Bruins, Penguins, and Rangers are not in the playoffs in the
Yeah.
same year
Wow.
in the history of the NHL.
And it's also, if you include Chicago in there, it's the first time that the original 6 American teams, none of the teams have made the playoffs.
which is truly incredible.
It is incredible.
I think that's a oversaturated stat, because back in the original 6, there were only 6 teams, and 4 of them made the playoffs. So that was an impossibility until 67, when they had the expansion. 68, sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's a weird kind
Well,
of stat.
we're here to counsel Razor and bring him along.
I
and
may
make sure he
need
feels
it. If they
comfortable.
flame out again early, or if they don't make
Well-
it past the first round, then it's an absolute
Well, according to
disaster.
Fan 590, you're in good hands, because they're going to be going far into the
Shocker.
playoffs. this
Wow.
Better
You know-
visions.
I disagree.
You know what
Be
was
prepared
shocking
for
is-
an influx of activity.
Have you guys seen who one of the odds-on favorite to win the cup is?
Is it Ottawa?
Carolina.
Yes, go Canes.
That is absolutely shocking. Like,
Their goaltending, that is shocking.
right?
Yeah.
Like it's. I don't know.
Well, you sure love their first round
And-
matchup
and-
with
and-
an
and-
absolutely
And
decimated
Razor,
New
we-
Jersey team.
Yeah.
Right.
And Razor, we can get into it. I apologize, but you just needed to just take it up a notch.
Turn
It's
up
a
the
big
volume.
deal. It's a
Act
big
like
deal.
you're excited,
coming
for
in.
God's sake, Razor.
Well, it's
Yeah.
it's tough to come down, Like I truth be told, I haven't watched as much NHL the past couple of weeks. Watching the Warriors, watching the Lincolns. We've been on the road, going to London, going to all
Waterloo.
these different venues and Waterloo, and so it's been exciting. But LaSalle and Chatham were a little bit far for me to travel, but. You're a great road mate going to closer versions, so I've really enjoyed it.
How do
So,
I take that? You're a good road
Version.
mate as long as the destination is short.
Yeah, exactly.
well,
Don't let me sit
I'm not
in
going
the
to
car
go
with you for an hour.
You'll go wherever. You're a far better fan than I am. I'm not going to hop in the car
I
and
made 2
drive to
trips to
LaSalle.
Tilbury this spring. so-
Right?
I mean, who on earth goes to Tilbury unless you have something to do? And I got family down there, and I still don't go there.
All right. Do they make sure they're out of town when you come? Do they?
Yeah, well, they just say, listen, if you need us, we'll be by the cemetery visiting old relatives.
There you
Oh,
go.
dear.
There you go.
So, anyways,
All right, where do you want to
All
start,
right.
Razor?
we should
Well, let's-
probably start in the east, I guess, eh?
Well, we'll
Yes.
start. Yeah, we'll start with the East. We'll get it over with. We'll start. We'll go around the table. We'll start with Halser, and then we'll finish up. Well, actually, we'll fit. I'll start it. And no, I want to hear your picks first,
Oh,
and then we'll even
it's
leave a
safe,
spot
right?
open.
It's safe.
We'll leave a
You're-
spot
you're
open,
fragile. I
right?
get it.
I know who you're picking.
I want to pick a homer. I want to see if it coincides with what you
Okay.
guys are thinking.
No, and I appreciate
We're-
that, Holly.
We're gonna leave a spot too for Les,
For
so
Les.
he can get in on
Yeah,
it too.
for sure.
Les, so
Absolutely.
But they're an
Yeah.
asterisk beside all his picks because they're already started.
right.
Yeah. By the time we go to air Monday,
Yeah.
he's going to be like, "Oh, hang on a second here. I thought
I
St.
thought I
Louis
had the
in
Leafs.
I
four,
was going
but
to say
here we are."
Toronto in 4, but now I got to say 5 because they're down 1-0.
Or 6
Just
or
no
7.
bets, please. please.
Right. All right. Starting
Oh.
off with the Leafs, Ottawa. Halser, what are you thinking there?
Well, I think this is a great situation for Toronto because they are playing somebody that doesn't have memory. Another series against a Florida or a Tampa or a Boston, and all you get is just recollections of past failures. So, I mean, you have to be of a fair age to remember the last time they played. I think there were names like Alfredson and Sundin that were playing last time these teams
McGillney,
played.
Tucker.
And so those were great series. Even when Toronto was sweeping, those were really good series. Both fan bases were rabid. Two atmospheres that were, I mean, how crazy it's going to be in games 3 and 4 in Ottawa. 'cause
Patrick
they haven't seen
Lalime.
they haven't seen the
100%.
playoffs in how many years, and so it's going to be nutso in Ottawa. But I just, and the thing I got to respect about Ottawa is that they're going to be able to win a 2-1 hockey game, and that's where the jury is out on Toronto. Can they win a 2-1 playoff hockey game? The answer was a mixed review last year when they went out. But I still think Toronto is a little bit too deep, and I think the coaching change is going to make even more of a difference in the playoffs than it did in the regular season. I have the ultimate respect for Craig Berube, former Flyer, and I'm going to take Toronto in 5 games.
Yeah, welcome aboard the bandwagon.
Yeah, it's 1 round prediction. The real
Get
fun.
too upset.
Yeah.
Rhett,
Red,
what
who
do you
are
got?
you
bud?
looking
Give
at,
me
buddy?
Ottawa in 7.
Oh, Red.
The Leafs are the Leafs. The Sens just got Brady Tkachuk back. They've got Linus Allmark, who's a good goalie. They're gonna do good in Ottawa, and the Leafs are the Leafs. They're not gonna win a first round.
That
Oh,
is
That's-
an interesting
that's
point.
about all
I
I know.
And
I-
his Boston history.
I used to be a former Sens fan, so I have to pick them.
All right.
I used to love Carlson back in the
Yeah,
day. when he was-
2017 was the year.
Oh, okay.
I got pictures of you in their dressing
Well
room.
said, Rhett.
Yeah. Jess, who are you picking?
Well, it pains me to say it, but
Welcome
I will take
aboard.
the Leafs
Welcome
in
aboard.
7 for the first round on first round only.
Oh, okay.
And my reasoning is quite simple. Depth of the roster and Linus Allmark, being a Bruin fan, I know that
Salty.
he will not carry the Senators through round 1.
Okay, that's why the Bruins traded him. So
Didn't work out
they
very
wanted
well.
they
Didn't
wanted
work out very
Swayman.
well,
No,
but,
no.
But I just, I'm going to have to say Toronto's depth and, Ottawa's inexperience is probably going to come back. But I'm going to say if they take the Leafs to 7 games, kudos to them. On the other foot, I would say if the Leafs find a way to blow this,
Oh, you don't want to know what'll
good
happen.
Lord, where do we go?
The
from
world
there,
will
right?
be ending if the Leafs blow this
Should
one.
start rioting.
Just in
Right?
Toronto, not the world.
Everywhere but Habland. Who are you picking?
All right, so a really quick analysis of, I think, the tangibles of what this series brings. You have a fragile Leaf Nation. You have a great hockey team. You have history of the fact that you're going into season 9 with your quote-unquote core and opportunities that may come your way. Ottawa has been playing game 7s for a month. So they really have nothing to lose. But what I will say is it won't take much for me to believe that Toronto can get behind the 8 ball quick. I will take the Sens in 7.
Oh,
Good pick, Jeff. I
my.
like it.
Spoken like a true Habs fan.
My.
It's just the way it is.
I agree.
Well,
How far am I off?
you guys had your chance.
Not far.
You had your chance.
Time will tell.
I just
Yeah.
think being a Leaf fan through and through, obviously have to pick them, but I have to go back what the Hockey Illuminati has said with 1967. So you have to believe in fate, but on a realistic version, I would highly guess that they're gonna start Stollarts. He's just been lights out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he led the league in save percentage this year.
He certainly did in the first
I
portion
will
of the
I
season.
will correct you. He's had one playoff game in his career. So
No,
there
but I
is
mean in
that.
a regular
Well, he's
season.
been
Well, that's
playing-
fine.
Stanley
playing
Cup
behind,
champion,
Bobrovsky.
backup.
Spam-
You know, I gotta give him credit. You know, he
Sure.
didn't touch the ice, but man, he got a ton of experience.
Who knows
watching-
backup goalies
right?
better than Razor?
I was just gonna say, right? So there you go.
Perfect.
So he's definitely, you're starting with him. It looks like if Matthews can stay healthy, Tkachuk's come back, but he only played one game, Rhett, so he's still nursing injuries. But hey,
Can
hats
I-
off to them.
Can I ask you one question?
Sure.
And just very honestly, do your big boys show up?
I think they
In year
they
9.
will.
Perfect.
I think
Okay.
they are.
Okay.
If they don't, then there's going to
No,
be
that's-
some changes.
Optimism is
Like I said,
That's
this
fine.
doesn't happen. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that is a multi-pronged question?
At the
what's
least,
that?
What I'm saying is, when you're talking about the core four, which ones will show up and which ones will be stuck on the perimeter watching, I guess that's what I'm watching. When I watch this series, I'm going to be watching which one of your core four are going to go into the dirty parts of the rink and get the job done.
That's so there's a stat, and what you're talking about with Marner being a over 100-point player. Congratulations. His shot opportunities decrease by 22
Dramatically.
feet away from the net. That's what Holly's talking about.
Oh, I
So
get
we'll
it.
see.
I get
So
it.
how much will the Four Nations Cup affect how Marner performs in these playoffs?
I think it could do nothing but help him with his experience in the Four Nations.
And I love it.
I hope it did.
He's
Okay.
playing for a contract. You've just had a good regular season. Now it's money time. Playoffs are where
Well, and
you
gosh darn it, don't want to lose to that wild card team.
right?
You didn't want to
Exactly.
play Boston. You didn't want to play Florida. You didn't want to play
Tampa.
You got Montreal. You got Columbus.
Yeah,
The excuses are done.
100%.
agreed.
And-
There are no.
I want to see Toronto win. I want to see if they can do it. Because if they can't,
Sell the team.
Let me ask one last question about Toronto.
All right.
As a Leaf fan,
Yeah.
as the only one here today because
Yeah.
Les is not available, what would you consider a successful playoff run? How many wins, how many rounds would you, at the end of the season, say, I consider that a successful playoff run? How far do they have to go to get you specifically, and maybe you generally, into that mindset?
I think if they don't go to the Eastern Conference Finals, it's a failure. I think if they lose in 6 or it's not so much if they lose in the conference final, but it's how they would lose. Are they 1-goal games? Are they, a bounce here or there? That is going to play a big role. But if they don't show up and they get outplayed and Marner is perimeter.
like round 2 against Florida, right?
Exactly. So
I don't honestly think success means they have to win a cup this year. But they have to have
But they
a
have
to
character
fight.
run.
Like they haven't even been to
Exactly.
the conference final in, 20 years?
since
You know
what,
the-
93?
You know what?
Carolina,
You know what the interesting
2004,
part though
whatever it
is,
was.
if I may say, and you know what, people will label me as a hater, but respectfully, Leaf Nation, this team, full of talent, probably underachieving, have no idea what it takes to make a run. Like, to do with all the factors that come into account. And I'm not slagging Toronto. I'm just saying, to
You're
to-
not?
Well, no, but to come
trying
in
something new today.
no, but to come into you saying conference final, how or if they lose,
Yeah.
it doesn't get easier. It gets harder.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
And people can put an asterisk beside my experience, but in 2021, when the Habs went, I had no idea what that meant. And to see them and completely fall off the table, and Carey Price, drove that whole bus. Day in and day out, game to game to game, you have no idea what team you're going to have because there's injuries, there's this, there's that. Like, it's so much more than kind of hoping for the best. I hope I'm making sense.
Well, you're right. It's such a grind,
Wow.
and
Well,
Chess can
and
attribute to
It-
that.
it-
And it's been 10 or 12 years for us Flyers fans, but we lost Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final on the Patrick Kane overtime goal, and it is a grind.
It's hell.
Absolutely.
Not just for the
It's hell.
players.
It's
a
the hardest
grind.
trophy to win.
Well, the thing is, it's a grind for the fans.
Oh,
I mean,
exhausting.
to have to
Yeah.
be available every other night for 8 weeks
Yeah.
straight,
Yeah.
when you're trying to put certain aspects of your life on hold because you don't want to miss Game 6 of the conference final or whatever, it is an absolute grind, even as a fan. So I can only imagine what it is for a player to have to go through that much physical toil
So
for 2
you
months.
just articulated what I was trying to say. I wasn't trying to slag.
No, your point's well made. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's. I remember like when it was 3-1 down on Toronto. 4 straight Winnipeg. 2 games into the Vegas series, I'm saying to myself, Stone's hurt. Marcia Stone's hurt. Like we could do this. And then you have that epiphany of getting into the Stanley Cup. They had nothing left, nothing against Tampa Bay, and it's like that's just what it is.
Like I can recall back in the Lindros days, and they beat out New Jersey in the second round in a 7-game series. That was an absolute bloodbath.
Horrible.
And so we got through. We've been at it for 4 weeks. We've played 12 playoff games. We're barely making it through, and then you stop and go, holy shit, we're only halfway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're only halfway to a Stanley
Yeah.
Cup after all they've been through for the last 4
So
weeks.
with
They're
all due
still
respect
only
to you,
halfway.
and
I know what
everybody
you're
was-
saying.
that came out the wrong way. That's what it is.
Well,
it's horrible.
And the other thing is that you can run into a team, like a Colorado is a run and gun. They're not as heavy of a team as say Dallas or Florida or Vegas. Like those are heavy teams that you want to try and avoid. Like having Tampa and Florida play in the first round was an absolute dream matchup for Toronto because it's usually been Toronto having to go through one of them to start off the playoffs. The absolute worst case scenario. Like two teams that love to muck it up. But anyways, we're spending a lot of time on the first
Anyway.
one. So
Understandably, we're spending a lot of time on the Toronto
Right.
And we'll
series.
we'll
Yeah.
just go
fair.
and
So
The original basis of this podcast is Toronto and Montreal.
right.
So
right.
Yeah.
let's
So-
give them their
All
due.
right.
Getting on to Tampa, Florida. That's another must-see.
Yeah.
Who are you picking on that one, Halser?
Well, I see this as kind of a contrast. Tampa, I find to be more of a finesse team, whereas, as to your point, Florida, nobody plays a heavier game than Florida. And that trade of Marchand that now hasn't been talked about as much, but that gives them a line. Here's the good news is that you're made the Stanley Cup playoffs, and your coach comes up and gives you the bad news that you're going to draw Kachuk, Bennett, and Marchand line as your assignment for the series. And you could just, you're calling the trainer ahead of time. Say, listen, stock up on ice. I'm going to need it. Because playing against these
Get
guys is an
cortisone.
absolute nightmare. So I'm kind of on the fence in that if Tampa can make it a short series and finesse them, but if it goes deep, the longer this series goes, the more it'll take the toll on Tampa. I'm going to take Florida in a 7-game slobber knocker.
there you go. Brett, who are you thinking?
I really know much about those teams, so I'll just go with my gut. Give me Florida and 7.
Florida and 7.
And they're my Stanley Cup pick winner, too.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Chester?
Yeah, I do like Florida in that series. I'll take them in 7. I do think the extra 45 some odd games they played the last 2 seasons will catch up to them. Not in this first round, though. I think they'll find a way to get through Tampa.
Right.
Just again, I think, like Holler said, kind of different rosters. Florida's just so heavy and tough to play against, and I just don't think Tampa has the depth as they used to have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Florida in 7.
Florida in 7. Burrs?
So I have Tampa coming out of the East for the Stanley Cup, and I will stand by that. And Chess, you were talking about the 40-plus games that Florida's played over the last 2.5 seasons, more than the average NHL team. It's starting to show. You're getting injuries. You're getting obstacles and challenges that get in the way. So what I will say is Tampa in 6.
All right. I'm going to take Florida in 7 as well because I love the pickups that they made. Now, this is all based on Tkachuk being healthy. If he's not healthy, that could totally change things. But I'm assuming that Tkachuk is going to play and be reasonably healthy. It scares me that it was a groin issue, it kind of appears like. But I love that they picked up Marchand. I love that they picked up Seth Jones to solidify the D. You got Conn Smythe winner Bobrovsky. Or no, actually Barkov. I thought...
Did you hear Tyler Bertuzzi's comment after
No.
he left Chicago?
No.
Seth Jones?
No.
Good.
Well, he doesn't have to be great there, right? Like
No,
he's just got to
used
fit
the
in.
Toxicity and
Yeah,
but
well,
anyways,
yeah.
as you were.
So I just think Bobrovsky, he was the front runner halfway through the playoffs, and then Barkov ended up overtaking him there at the end for the Conn
Barkov
Smythe.
is still hurt for the record.
Yeah, so that's another one, but hopefully
Florida is showing its wear and tear respectfully.
Yes.
They're an amazing team.
Yep.
I love Paul Maurice. I
Yep.
love everything about Florida Panthers.
Yep.
Tampa's
Those 2 coaches.
I was going to say,
Yeah,
is there a
unreal.
better
It's
coaching
still-
matchup in these
That
playoffs?
is awesome.
Unreal.
And I don't
Both
think I don't
coaches.
think it'll come down to coaching. I think it'll come down to health.
Yeah.
No, you're
That's all it is.
absolutely.
And well, and Vasilevsky's starting to find his rhythm again, and you got Kucherov, who all he does is go out and get 100
One
points.
of my favorite NHL players.
Yeah.
Luke Paul.
Yeah,
Third line center, 28 goals.
yeah, yeah. Not a bad,
Not a bad
third
line center.
And one of my favorite
Right.
players, Braden Point.
Braden Point is
Yeah.
my favorite player in the NHL. He's incredible. And sorry to steal the thunder, but
No, it's all good.
it's. I just want to be clear. I take no pride in saying anything against Florida. They're incredible, but they're starting to stumble. a little bit.
There's some
Right?
cracks in the iron, obviously, but
I have no
that-
problem if they beat Tampa. I don't have any problem with that.
yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Now we get to your team. So we've got Montreal, Washington, Halser.
Montreal is a sexy pick for an underdog. And how fun would it be? You know, we always want more Canadian teams, especially in this climate of the time of day. But I think Montreal will give them all kinds of trouble. I have concerns about the goaltender. As good as he was in the regular season, how many times have we seen a guy that was awesome in the regular season? And why don't we just ask Manitobans how they feel about a good regular season goaltender?
Well,
Having said that, we have to give him the opportunity to do his job. And one thing that they have is a team that can play in front of him. Like Winnipeg, they have that team that can shut you down and limit your scoring chances. I think Montreal has... you're going to have to talk later about who actually does have experience in the playoffs there, because I know there's not much there.
Suzuki, Caulfield went to a cup final. Anderson, do you want me to keep going? Savard.
So they're not
Gallagher.
completely devoid of it,
Yeah.
not in net. Having said that, that's the one thing that there's the commonality of this series is that neither goaltender is tested in the playoffs. They both have solid goaltending. They could both make this. I think it'll be a low-scoring series, but I think Washington's just a little bit too much team for them. I'm going to take them in 5 games.
Washington in 5. Brett?
Give me Washington in the sweep.
Oh.
All right. Oh, that's fine.
No
Wait till we
respect.
get to Carolina.
No respect.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call provocation.
I don't know about that. Come on.
That's fair.
Jester?
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah. So this is an interesting series. I love the youth and the energy that Montreal's playing with. I honestly think they're going to find a way to win this in 7. Goaltending, both ways, like Halder said, is not good. I'm not sure what we're going to get from Montalban, and I have no idea what we're going to get in Washington. I think if Ovechkin can be shut down, I'm going to go Habs in 7.
Habs in 7.
Who is the Washington goalie?
Logan,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Exactly.
he had a
Who
great
is-
year.
Great question.
Who are the Winnipeg Jets?
we'll get to them in a minute.
Yeah.
But
Les will be grinding his teeth because he knows he was supposed to be on maybe Canada. Logan Hamilton? No, Logan
Thompson.
Thompson.
Yes.
So,
Montreal in 4. I know.
no. Logistics. So there's all sorts of moving parts with Montreal. We barely made it in. I think Washington might have a little bit of a hangover with all the hoopla about Ovechkin scoring and breaking the record and all that sort of stuff. They had a terrible game in that game that he broke it. If your team's in the playoffs and you don't bet on them, then don't bother. Habs in 7.
Habs in 7.
Good call.
I just look at both teams and I look at how Washington hasn't had any adversity all season long. They got out of the gates quick. They didn't have any guys in the Four Nations Cup. They had the Ovechkin watch. It's been a party for them. And I think that that's all going to come to a crashing halt. I think you've got, if Montembeault can play well, maybe steal a game. I love what you guys have with Hudson. The guy is lights out.
he's really interesting to watch, isn't he?
He just sets it, that first pass, the power play, he distributes the puck so well. He's going to be a Norris Trophy guy. He is just that good. I know he's only a rookie, but man,
Might win a Calder
he
this
is.
year.
He is so. Yeah, he's the
It's just
favorite
him
to
and
win.
Calabrini, right? That's the
Yeah,
only-
him and Celebrini are the only two that they're really talking about it, and so I like that. I like it that they got this Russian coming in. You know, he's in
Davidoff scored in had points in
his
two of his
opening
first 5
game, and he's
shifts.
looking at, what is he, 19? He's looking
19.
around, going, "Holy cripes, I've arrived!" Right? And like you said, you got Caulfield and Suzuki that have Stanley Cup experience. I think they're the Cinderella story. I think they're going to do some damage, and wouldn't it be great? I know it's fictitious,
here
but
it comes. Yep,
wouldn't it be
I know what
great
you're
to see
going with.
Toronto-Montreal in the
conference
conference
final.
final? That would be awesome.
What I will say about the Habs season, which I had not yet, is regardless of what happens in this season, it is a success.
Absolutely.
Progression,
100%.
Absolutely.
evolution.
Yep.
We've got so much happening. We're not, sexy like a Toronto with the big boys.
Yep.
But somehow a Pee-wee coach by the name of Martin St. Louis has made it work.
Absolutely.
So, win or lose, we'll take it.
I think he should
All
get
right.
some votes.
So I've
Coach
got
of the year.
I
I've
think
got
so.
Montreal in 7.
Okay.
I'm taking them as well. So New Jersey, Carolina, Halser.
Rhett and Shanker. They're the only two people that give a crap about this series. I'm not going to lie.
Come on.
I'm serious. Who else?
It'll be a good
Everybody,
series.
call in right now if you care about this series.
We don't have a number for you to call, but call
I
it.
think
Carolina-
Shanker's down south, so he can't even.
He's scouting.
He's in
Is he
Mexico,
scouting
isn't
He's
he?
down there
Okay.
making sure before he places his bet.
Carolina confounds me. They really do. They are a team that did some of the most confusing trading I've ever seen this season. They have some guys that most people never heard of. They just fly right under the radar. They honestly do.
Keep Ratnan for 3 weeks.
I
That was
mean,
Yeah.
dumb.
like I said, some of the
Crazy.
stuff they did around the
Crazy.
trade deadline, I have no idea what they were thinking was going to end up there. But at the end of the day, New Jersey has been hit hard with injuries, and they have limped. I can't swear to this, but I heard a number that they were one of the worst teams post Four Nations Cup points collection-wise. So I think Carolina's running into them. I think it's a dream matchup for Carolina. And my only question is whether I give New Jersey a game or not. And I going to say New Jersey in 5. Sorry, Carolina in 5.
I was
my
gonna
bad.
say.
My bad. Carolina in 5.
Carolina in
Yeah.
5.
Is New Jersey going to win a game? Yeah, they'll win the series. No, I'm just kidding. Carolina in 5.
Good choice.
All right.
Rhett
Sure.
Chessel from St. Mary's,
well,
Ontario.
I think Carolina's going to have one problem. That's goaltending. I don't know if I trust Freddie Anderson and the other Russian guy they have.
Great question.
But Carolina they have experience. They went to the conference finals last year.
And they got Rod the Bod.
And they have Rob
A
Bridmore.
former Flyer.
And they have Rob Bridmore, who I think is the best coach in
That's
the
who,
NHL.
that's who that is. Rod the Bod. Sorry, sorry about
Rod the Bod.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
You got a great coach.
Yeah, and they got Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov. They got Brent Burns on the back end. And give
How
me
old is he now?
36.
Is tell you. He
Still plays like
he's
a
got
champ.
false teeth older than you.
Still.
He's still one of the best defensemen in the
Still
league.
puts in
I
26
know. He's,
points
well,
a
he's
night.
just he's a
minutes.
physical wonder, that
Yeah,
guy, man.
it's unbelievable. So
Give me Carolina in 4.
Carolina at a sweep. You like these sweeps,
I like it.
Washington?
He's just
It's
sleeping.
no in between.
Carolina.
It's either
No.
7 or 4. There are no. There's nothing.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Rhett, almost respect.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect.
Prove us wrong. Chester?
Well, I'm going to go Hurricanes for sure. I see nothing out of New Jersey that gives me any sort of hope. I'm not impressed with Carolina's goaltending, much similar to what Rhett said, but I do think the experience and the depth of their roster will carry them. I'm going to go Canes in 6.
Canes in 6. Hers?
Injury-prone New Jersey team and a Carolina kryptonite of goaltending issues. I will say Canes in 7, and that might be as far as they get.
Well, I'm going to agree with you 4. I'm going to say it's the Canes. I think it's going to be over fairly quickly. I think it's going to be over in 5 games just because Jersey is healthy enough. They've lost Quinn. Their goalie's been hurt on and off. And I just think that Carolina, Brenda Moore's another good coach. I don't think he gets enough credit for his success that he has. He quietly just wins series. He unfortunately lost to Edmonton there in the finals, but he's got a great resume. I think he's able to rally the troops. I think it's going to be over fairly quick with Carolina in 5. All right, let's go to the West.
Sorry, Shanker.
Yeah. Sorry, buddy.
I'm not sure Shanker would disagree with us, frankly.
hope not.
Shanker's a realist.
Yep.
He knows his team.
Yeah,
He's a
fair.
balanced fan, for sure.
I guess the only thing Markstrom could blow real hot there and cause Carolina a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
He could badly outplay Carolina goaltending, but Carolina, like I said, it's all
Not sure
about
about
Yeah.
New Jersey's coaching either.
First round exit, that's why. Shallow keep.
Well, he knows the deal, doesn't he? He knows the drill.
He loves the first round exit.
Yeah.
He loves to go to a golf course. Extra early.
Boy, the least should hire him.
All right, let's skip over to the West. We've got Winnipeg and St. Louis, boys. We got to pick this up because we got to
And
still
it's-
talk
and
about
it's
the Irish.
On
So
me, because this one, to me, and it's going to sound strange with all the great series matchups, this one's the hardest one for me because St. Louis is one of the hottest teams down the stretch. And that's something that I have noticed over the decades of watching this league, that you always have to be careful of that lower-ranked playoff team that got hot to get in. And also, if I pick against them, I may have to stare Tim Taylor in the face a few weeks and tell him I picked against his team. But at what point is Winnipeg going to make regular season success translate into playoff success? As far as I'm concerned, they are one hot goalie away from going very deep in these playoffs, but I don't know if he's going to show up. So I have to trust him, and I'm going to say it's going to be Winnipeg and I think it's going to be in 6 games.
Rhett, who are your picks?
St. Louis in 6.
St. Louis. Tim Taylor, thanks you.
Yep.
Jester?
I'm going to go Winnipeg in 7. I think this is the year they will figure out how to get through that first round. I do like St. Louis a lot. I just think home ice advantage. The whiteout will be out. I think they have a good enough team this year that I just cannot see them losing first round again. So I'm not going to go a whole lot deeper with Winnipeg, but they're going to get this one.
There you go.
I just go by facts, and the facts are that this team can't get it done. St. Louis in 6.
Well, it looks like Hellebuck's going to win the Vezina again. He had a great Four Nations showing there. Just was one save short on a great shot by McDavid, but I agree. He has folded up like a cheap suit in the playoffs. And the moves that Doug Armstrong and Tim Taylor and the rest of the scouting staff, like, man, oh man, what a shitty time to have Holloway get hurt and be done for the playoffs. But I think Binnington outplayed Hellebuck in the Four Nations, and I'm going to go with Binner because all you hear about is Hellebuck, and that guy loves to prove people wrong, and so I'm going to take St. Louis in 7.
Nice.
What a delicious coincidence that the two guys that met up in the Four Nations are going to meet up in the first round.
Yep,
of
and they're both
playoffs.
excellent goaltenders.
Oh,
no
yeah,
question.
absolutely.
But Razor, great synopsis.
Okay, Dallas, Colorado. Man, other than my Leaf series, this is the one I want to see.
Absolutely. That's number 1 for me. As long as the games come on sometime before 10:30 at night, I'll be watching this one.
Tomorrow night at 8.
Because probably my favorite team to watch is Colorado. I love the way they play the game. You have to respect Dallas, their roster, their goaltender, their coach. Beautiful. Frankly, this is a matchup that should happen in the 3rd round, not in the 1st round.
Right.
200-point teams. I just think that Colorado, because they have, in the Rantanen situation, makes it even more
Juicy.
delicious,
Yeah.
frankly. But I just got to believe that my man Nate is going to carry his team through the 1st round. It's going to be a 7-game series either way. I'm taking Colorado in 7.
Okay. Rhett?
Tough decision. I'm going to pass. I'm going to think about this one.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay.
That's fair.
All right.
No
We
worries.
can go back to it.
Jester?
Yeah,
Wait
this is
a
juicy. So
Are you going on FanDuel? Yeah, that a boy.
I'm calling a foul.
That's fair. That's fair.
yeah, I think Dallas is just a little bit better in Colorado. I don't like Colorado's goaltending. Dallas is ready to go, and they're going to be there at the end almost. So I'm going to go Dallas in 7. Though it's going to be a heck of a series.
Dallas.
I'm really happy to see that Game 1 is 8:30 p.m. The rest of the series is 9:30 from the looks of it. But yeah, that'll be a dandy.
All right.
This
Birds?
series is painful
It
because I
is.
love both teams.
Mhm.
I love Pete DeBoer.
Like I said, should be a 3rd
Yeah,
round match.
Jamie Benn. All the absolute
Sagan's
studs.
back.
All of them. And you know, there's a common denominator with me is Nate McKinnon, and he's made Nishas better. They've forgotten about Rantanen. There's so many different fundamentals that come with this matchup, but I will never, insane mind, bet against Nate McKinnon. Colorado in 5.
He's going to need
Wow.
help.
Wow.
Brad, are you ready to go yet? Or are you gonna
By
let
the
Razor
way,
go?
Landeskog will be in Game 1.
Right. Yeah.
And of course,
yeah,
what should not be forgotten is 30 to 35 minutes of Cale Makar.
Yeah.
Not
I
a
remember
bad
your
problem to
comment
have.
from the Four Nations. I knew Makar was great, but holy cow!
Yeah.
I didn't realize he
I
was
never
that
see
great.
too much of Colorado, but when I got to watch him play 3 or 4 games, he just, like I said, he's unbelievable. He reminds me of coffee.
And he was
I-
only at about 80%
I-
because he was sick.
And trust me, guys, I love and respect Dallas, but Colorado has been playing lights out for a month and a half. It's not going to stop.
They are.
My opinion.
They are actually. I was wrong. It's not Carolina that is the favorite. They're the third. Colorado is the favorite, then Florida, then Carolina.
Which
They're-
is a
they're-
disrespect to Dallas, I think. But
Yeah, Dallas is.
The problem with Dallas
seven.
at this point
Yeah.
is Ottinger. They don't know who exactly their goalie is
he,
going to be.
he can win you a game or he can lose you a game, right? Like he just hasn't put enough series together in order to take him seriously. in
How
my
is it
opinion.
that when Rantanen got traded, Colorado got better? Why is that?
Right. Yeah.
Just a question.
Right.
You don't have to answer it, but
all right, let's have it, Boyle.
Colorado in 6.
Colorado in 6.
okay.
I like Colorado has been there. They won a cup just a couple of years ago. The only question that I have is their goaltending, but so same with Dallas with Ottinger. But when you've got McKinnon, you've got arguably top 2 players in the league on your team. I really like what Colorado has going on with the experience. Makar is an absolute Bobby Orr-esque type player out back. I'm taking Colorado in 6. All right, Vegas, Minnesota.
Well, Minnesota, nice story. Started out hot, got a little banged up. A certain Stratford hockey player has missed the last few games for injury. I know that. If they don't have him, they can't win. Maybe if they had him, I
Get well soon, Midzi.
absolutely. But Vegas is the beast, and they're going to get unleashed. And Minnesota's in their way. I'm going to give them 1 game. Vegas in 5.
Rhett?
Vegas in 5.
Vegas in 5. No hesitation there. Juster?
Well, looks like I won't be watching the game till game 4 because we got the 10 p.m., 11 p.m. We have a 9 p.m. and then game 4 is 4 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon. So that'll be the game we get to watch this week. Vegas in 4.
Vegas in 4.
I hear
Burrs?
Jake Middleton will play. I just know he's banged up.
At the beginning of the year, I had the Oilers coming out of the West. Not no more. It's Vegas coming out of the West, and they will win this. Unfortunately, sorry, Mids, in 4.
Sweet.
All apologies to Mids, of course.
Of course,
Yeah, that's not his
with
fault.
all due respect.
Sorry, what did you say 4 or 5,
I did. I
Justin?
said 4,
4 as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to take the Golden Knights as well just because Minnesota, I don't believe in their goaltending. I know Fleury's probably not going to be the guy playing, but I think that Vegas is a well-oiled machine. Marcia show, oh, you don't want to play here and be a team guy, and like that's where guys like Mitch Marner got to be careful because I get it. Marcia show won a cup, but you either fit within our perimeters or we're going to cast you off, and they haven't missed a beat. And so I'm going to take Vegas in 5.
Yeah, but that's not Toronto mentality.
No, they want to. They
Respectable.
and don't get me wrong, and we've talked about it a lot, but until you show me you're willing to take less money in order to allow the team to get players to help
Yeah.
take you to the promised
Toronto's
land.
like, we'll pay you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. L.A. Edmonton, Halser.
Well, I went on record as taking Edmonton as my Stanley Cup pick, but they are really banged up right now, and that is
Not enough. yeah.
worrisome.
Yeah.
Very worrisome. There's some good stuff going on down in LA, very quietly, off the radar. They play a really good game, a heavier game. Anze Kopitar having a resurgence.
Yep.
He's got to be in his mid-30s by now. Seems like he's been playing for 20 years.
Yeah.
But to your point about McKinnon, I believe that the best player on the planet is going to play and be healthy and be him. And if you want to bet against him, you do so at your peril. I'm going to take Edmonton in a long series, 7 games.
Rhett?
Pass.
Need a timeout on that one too. Eh? All right. Well, yeah, Edmonton is a funny team. I compare them to Toronto a lot because they don't seem to answer the goaltending problem that they seem to have every year. But like Halser said, it's tough to guess. It's tough to bet against McDavid, Draisaitl. The health is an issue, but I do think they have enough to get through this round. It'll come to an abrupt end in the second round, I think. But I will take the Oil in 7.
Edmonton in 7. Spurs?
There's a consequence for going to the Stanley Cup final. And Edmonton completely is a mess. And I don't think that they're healthy. I don't think that they're capable of going too far this year. I have to always bet on Connor McDavid because he's always the MVP in my opinion for the league. We will go Edmonton in 7, and I say that with the utmost unconfident I could ever say. I don't see it this year. Love McDavid, love the Oilers. They're a complete mess right now.
Yeah. Rhett?
Well, Kings in 7.
Oh,
Why
my.
are you looking at me?
I'm not.
Well, because
I just don't really care about this
you
series.
picked him to come out of the West, so he's just staring you down.
Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, I Edmonton won't be doing anything this year.
I
They
just
won't win
think
the first round.
I just think you're right. Like they've been beat up. Skinner is
They're without home.
Like it's a crapshoot between the pipes. You lost Broberg and Holloway, like 2 great depth players. But I'm just not sold on the Kings, and I still think, even though I agree with you, I don't think Edmonton's going to go very far. I'm going to give this first round to the Oilers, and I think they're going to do it in 7. So there you go. We've got a lot of interesting picks. We'll definitely be watching a lot of hockey over the next few weeks between the Lincolns and the Leafs and the Habs. And
Well, you and the Lincolns and stuff like that. Like you'll get a week yet.
At least the Lincolns will be playing in 2 weeks. We hope.
Yeah, hopefully.
yeah. So we're spoiled. It's like the Christmas commercials. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
I think October is the most wonderful time of the year.
Do you?
Baseball.
There you go.
If your team's not in it, or
No, because the Dodgers are the best team in MLB history, and they beat your Yankees.
I know. You made me look bad, but honestly,
Listen,
They
like-
forgot how to
I
play
like your
baseball.
kid.
I don't want to get into it, but
I-
game 5 when
I think a T-ball team could have played better than the Yankees. in that game.
Oh, Rhett. I thought we were buddies. You know what?
Now I'm torn. I can't stand your affiliation with that team. But when you slag the Yankees, you make points back.
Are
Because
you a
you're
Blue Jay
right.
fan?
They played defense.
we don't even have security here.
I
They
know.
were
That's,
horrible. The Yankees were. They were horrible on
TNT.
defense.
It was the one game. I think it was game 5 when they had the 3 or 4 run lead and Judge dropped the fly ball.
That
and-
was so funny.
and
Yeah,
everything
but
that
before
could
he
go
dropped
wrong.
It, he goes, watch this.
Yeah,
It just dropped it.
just crazy.
they deserved to lose.
Yeah,
Are
they
you a Blue Jay fan, Holy?
they choked.
They won't even win 70 games this year.
70 games.
Maybe they didn't have $400 million to spend on product.
No,
And they should have got rid of Vladdy.
Apparently they did, but nobody wanted to Cash
Vladdy's
in.
not worth $400
And
million.
with that, we thank
He's-
all
no,
of our
he's worth
generous
5.
sponsors.
Oh,
worth $5.
he's worth $1 million at least.
He's
Yeah.
worth 500 if he's the only guy that'll sign there.
Yeah,
So that's
that's
the thing.
exactly it. When his agent is saying, "Oh, by the way, we actually saw that you offered Otani and Soto 700," we think we're well within our means.
And took him to arbitration for 2 years. In
Right.
A row.
Yeah,
We
still
could have got
paying
him
for
for
that.
150.
we're gonna argue
Shapiro,
paying.
watch this.
We're gonna argue paying you $14 million a year.
We're gonna haul you into court over $2 million.
Yeah, so that we can pay you 35 a year. great
Just
call.
makes sense.
Absolute sense.
Well, he finally got his first home run of the year. So
yeah.
Yeah,
So
thank
there's
you.
that.
It's
Well, it
all
took him
uphill.
about 2.5 weeks.
It's
Right.
all uphill from here, right?
Sorry, who's in
So-
first place in the AL East?
Right? Not the
Yankees.
Jays.
Must be Toronto.
Yeah.
Who's
Shockingly,
in
By-
first
by the
place?
end of the
Who's
season,
in
nobody
first place in the
laughs.
NL West?
The
San Diego, I think.
the Dodgers are 15 and 6.
But
I
the
don't
West
like
is
it.
wild. The West is wild, actually.
it is.
San Diego.
Yeah.
I think
San
the Giants are a
Diego,
sleeper
LA,
team.
San Fran. Who saw San Fran coming out?
They're
like
going to
that?
be a wild card team. I think.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Well, that whole division is going to be.
Even Arizona's good too.
All right, boys. Well,
That's a mic drop right there.
Yeah.
we want to thank Rhett and Chris Chessel for coming on the Armchair Chirpers. Guys, thank you. Appreciate having you guys on. So we'll definitely be seeing lots of you over in St. Mary's over the next week.
Tuesday night, game 3.
Go Lynx, go.
See you all
Absolutely.
there. If I make my way over to your area, I have a hard time leaving my zone, but it is nice to drop over and hear your side of the story. So thanks for having us
Well,
on.
it's nice that you come down and visit the Po folk down on the short side of the building.
Well, you know, I don't
We
wanna
take
get
the
that-
short bus
I
to
just
the
don't like
short
being
side.
that close to the other team's coach. I don't want
Oh,
to
are
have to
you
watch
kidding me?
myself.
When your
sometimes.
team is 22-2 at home, it's fun standing beside the visitors bench.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah. No, thanks for having us on, guys. The next few weeks are going to be fun.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have you, if not on live, maybe by phone, because we definitely got to do a wrap up.
Yeah.
Whether the links advance, I would hope that they're going to
Whoa,
advance.
whoa.
They
like,
won't.
just,
They
like,
will.
Yeah.
Let's, okay,
But we're gonna
there's
have
a
to
lot
That's
going
positive
on.
thinking.
All right.
Speaking of
All right.
probabilities here, we're pretty sure. We'll just talk to you from one of the trucks in the parade.
Yes.
That's right.
When they win the Southern Cup in May.
That's right.
Coming to you live from downtown St. Mary's is Rhett Chessel.
From Joe's Diner.
I have my horn going.
Chirpers
Same
will
Marie.
have a float in the parade.
Yeah.
should brought my
Absolutely. All right, guys. Pleasure. Happy Easter, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks,
All right.
Thanks,
Cheers,
everybody.
guys.
See ya.
So for the rest of you, we're just gonna. Are we gonna go to break, or
Take
we
a
just
quick break
you guys
there
walk
and
out?
we'll
We'll
be
go to a
back.
quick break. We'll politely escort our friends out,
Gotta
Hostile
make sure we
environment.
lock the door behind them.
and we'll be back to wrap it up with the Irish.
The Irish.
We'll be back.
Our record.
Nice job, guys. Great job.
Plastic blind. Why do I climb these heights for you? Twisted muse always gets my shit confused. What's a man have to prove? Do I have to walk the knife for you?
Okay, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
For every highway I ride.
All right, welcome back to the now spacious confines of the round table at the Armchair Chirpers. Once again, a thanks to the Chessel boys for taking us through St. Mary's and through some very entertaining NHL discussion.
Oh yeah, Rhett's a beauty.
As much fun as we're having with the Lincolns, though, there's still a couple rounds away to get to where the Stratford Fighting Irish are. And another big road victory for the Irish last night to take a 3-1 lead, a 5-3 win. And that's now 6-1 for the Irish on the road in these playoffs. And that's how you win a
Crazy.
championship.
Right?
That is how you win a championship. And they did the same thing 2 years ago when they went undefeated on the road through 3 rounds of playoffs when they won the 2023 Super Cup.
And that was in Tilsonburg?
They won it in Tilsonburg.
Tilburg,
Their
yeah.
only loss in those playoffs was they were up 2-0 in a best-of-5 against Aaron, who are the former Orangeville Blitz. They were the Aaron Blitz then.
Okay.
And they were up 2-0 and crapped the bed in Game 3 and lost, I can't remember the score now. But then they swept Elora, which is something we love to do it should be done
Just
annually,
sounds good.
sweeping Elora. And
Yes.
then went in and just played lights out against Tilsonburg. And one of my favorite goals of all time was the overtime winner by a young man named Noguera. Was the fourth line with Mav Petrie assisting on the goal after he forced a turnover in the Tilsonburg end, and they scored it right below me there from where I was standing. So that was a lot of fun. But last night was another great performance by the entire hockey club. They got more action out of Magwood. They got depth of scoring. They got
Brulot had a
two.
couple.
Brulot showed up after a couple of games without a goal. Henderson scored.
Yeah, Mag's had a couple of helpers, but
Yep.
he's distributing the puck. Brews, and that's what they needed, was not to always have to rely on Mags, because obviously Strathroy's focused on them. But it's nice to see Brew. Stokes had a goal. But the two guys that seem to be doing a lot of damage for Strathroy is Brandon Bach.
Well, you have to watch this guy play. Now, last night, in fairness, Amos showed up. That third line that they put together, Amos had been playing. He spent the last half of the Alverton series playing on the top line with Schremp and Buck.
Okay.
But then they moved
He's with McIntyre and Mandarelli.
they moved Stapleton up to the top line, who's another big body, and moved him down, you're right, to the third line, and gave them a little more depth of scoring, because that line did not have much success in the first 2 games. I thought it was a brilliant coaching move by Strathroy. And, it's been a while, so they lost Game 3 at home, and that was definitely the most complete game, not only for the Jets, but from their superstar goaltender, Evan DeBrouwer. That save that he made at 1-1 in the first period on Magwood, who had the top corner label.
Glove save.
And just a beauty glove save. And I'm trying to remember in the third period, he did it again off of another left-hand shot, and it might have been Henderson who came in
Yeah,
and
I
he did the
can't
same
remember.
thing, ripped
Yeah.
a glove hand save. And so up until that point, Zach Weir was out playing Evan DeBrouwer in the series, but then DeBrouwer kind of flexed his muscle and said, okay, that's enough.
Yep.
And, of course, Buck was kept shut out in the first game, but he scored a hat trick in Game 2. He scored 2 more in Game 3. And
Yeah.
he scored 2 more last night, or 1?
2.
And so, I mean, he's got, 6 or 7 goals in this series already. He just keeps scoring. And but the one note.
Sorry, it was 1.
Just
Amos
one,
had
yeah.
2. Amos had back-to-back goals. They're down 3-1, and then Amos scored 2 goals in the second to tie it up 3-3.
So the one name that is very noticeable by his absence is McQueen. And McQueen can be the best player in this series. And I thought he played really well in Game 3. He came
In
to
Stratford.
play. Defensively,
Yep.
he was solid. He was a threat all night, but he's just not turning that into goals. And at one point, Strathroy was like 1 for 12 on the power play, and that power play, at least on paper, is the best power play that this league has ever seen, with Buck, McQueen, Schremp, Paddy McNeil. And I still giggle at the fact that a guy with the name of Paddy McNeil is giving a team called the Fighting Irish a hard time. But he played. I thought he was their best player in Game 3, Paddy McNeil. Next to DeBrouwer, of course, their best skater. I thought McNeil had a great game defensively and offensively. He was breaking up plays. He was winning puck battles. First passes, right on the tape. It doesn't matter if it's 12 feet or 100 feet. He seems to throw that first pass right on the tape.
McQueen had a nice setup in Game 3 in Stratford. Backhand pass over to, I forget who it was, who scored on Weir, but he looked really good. And they were moving the puck. McQueen, Buck, and Shrimp were beautiful seam passes. And, like, I know we talk about Shrimp, like he didn't have any points there last night, but the games, like, where you watch him, he's just making, like, backhand saucer passes right onto guys' tape. Beautiful seam passes on the power play.
Well, and that's the thing. His game has changed because he's almost 40, right?
Right, and
so
he doesn't have the wheels.
He doesn't skate very well anymore. You can tell he's overweight. He's lost the hair, and
Yep.
he's not the same guy, but he's still got those NHL smarts.
Yep.
And one thing that I've really noticed interesting about his game is that he seems to like to set up high slot in his own end. And people give him space, if he gets that puck and gets that space, and he has such an awareness of time and space that he knows exactly how long he has, and of course he can hit you on a pass anywhere in the rink.
That's the detail of the career.
Yeah, I
in the
mean,
NHL.
that's just, I've been so impressed by his ability to find streaking guys. The guys know when he gets that puck in his own high slot, which is a really weird place to set up, with time and space. But he hits guys whether they're going across the ice or down the boards or wherever, or if he has to turn around and bail, he sends it back to the D-man. But, other than that, he's got a great shot.
Yeah.
I
Unbelievable
don't think he
release.
uses it nearly enough. He doesn't need. He's a former NHLer. He doesn't need my advice as to how to play hockey. But, I guess I've been a little disappointed as to the fact that he has been maybe the fourth most impactful guy on his team.
Yeah.
Even Amos is making more noise.
Yep,
than he is,
Amos
so.
is scoring. But the one guy that I thought created a lot of havoc in Game 3 is the owner, Matt LaBerge, number 65, the defenseman. He was going around cross-checking guys there last Saturday
that's
night.
His game, that's
Just creating.
He was among the league leaders in penalty minutes.
Yeah.
And,
But it just seemed that Stratford was off their game last Saturday night at the Allman. LaBerge was hitting guys. You had Shrimp firing on all cylinders. I think Buck had a couple of goals.
McQueen, like I said, even though he didn't translate it into points,
Yeah.
his game was complete. 200-foot game. Showed what kind of
Yeah.
player he is. For a big guy who's got a little spread going on for his mid-30s, he skates so well for a big guy, and it just makes me wonder a little bit about what he looked like 10 years ago when he was fit and ready to go. That's why a guy like that plays in the AHL, right?
Well, and I also heard, I won't get into names, but Stratford has to win it, in my opinion, Saturday night here. They had 6 o'clock because there's some things that could happen for Games 6 and 7. I don't want to get into it in case there's any Strathroy fans or players listening, but Stratford needs to finish this thing.
They could be short
Saturday night.
Forward next
Yes.
weekend. You're right.
Yes.
Having said that, they closed out the Petrolia series without Magwood,
Yep.
without Pekka, with 8 forwards. They had 12 skaters. You know what I mean? They
But
closed out the Petrolia series. Now,
And no disrespect to Petrolia.
Petrolia is not Strathroy.
No, they're
I
not.
get that. Having said that, this is a team that, they put the OG line back together that night and they produced. Matt Montgomery scored the game-winning goal. Cole Thiessen is still there every game.
Yep.
Who is easily, by
He had
my count, the best defenseman in this league.
Yeah, he had the game winner last night on a power play goal halfway through the third period.
He just skates miles and miles and miles out there. He's such a wonderful skater. Like I said, as far as I'm concerned, Cole Thiessen, or Goal Thiessen, as we like to call him
Goal
on the
Thiessen,
broadcast.
yeah.
That's
a beauty
a
to
Trey
watch.
Hamiltonism.
Well, and it's also nice that Robbins is getting in it. Palillo had a couple of helpers last night.
Palillo's been a little bit snake bit through
Yeah.
these playoffs, and so he's started to score again. And that, when you start getting that depth, in Game 1, Matt Montgomery scored 2 goals. Palillo gets assists in Game 4. That depth of scoring is absolutely critical if you want to play. It doesn't matter who you have at the top end. You have to get, at some point, depth of scoring because one guy or one line isn't going to carry you through a 4-game series.
Right.
And so even though that's the impressive part for me, and of course Zach Weir played another great game last night, and I just so happy for him.
Yeah.
When you go up against a guy who's an All-American at a D1 university, and you're, where did you play? Well, I was a Cherry Cup champion,
Right.
in Junior B, which is impressive by
Sure.
itself. But comparing,
Fair.
you can't hardly compare resumes.
No.
But Zach Weir has been absolutely fantastic.
He's been
for
lights
Stratford in
out,
these
yeah.
playoffs. Capriotti's backed him up very capably. But when Zach Weir plays, there's just a little bit more of an aura about this team of confidence. And that is what you saw in Strathroy in the series against Alvinston, where they had that feeling about them. You could just get that sense about the team that they believed they could just do whatever they wanted, and the goalie will take care of it. Much like the Oilers in the 80s when Grant Fuhr would let in 4 or 5 goals in the first 2 periods, get into the third period and go, just go, guys, I'm good. Just get me that tying goal. They ain't getting nothing else.
Right.
And DeBrouwer has that ability, and Zach Weir has given him that in these playoffs. It was a 4-3 lead going into the third period, if memory serves. And again, for about the 5th straight game, when they have a lead going into the third period, they lock it down and get the win. And that's why they're now 1 win away.
1 win
from
away.
a championship against all the odds. And
Who would have thought, right?
Tell you
when
what, I mean, we were just at one point we were wondering whether there would even be a team at this point of the year, with all the stuff that's going on. And I don't want to get into it a whole lot. Maybe Monday, if the series is over, I could say some more things about what I've been feeling and whatever. But I'm not sure I've ever had as much respect for a group of young men as I do for this hockey club, to go through what they have gone through, to gel like they have gelled, to come together like they have, and make the whole greater than the sum of the parts, when the sum of the parts was also a big number.
Yeah.
But they are a true definition of a hockey team.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And that has just been so much fun, for all the crap from the league and all the crap with ownership and all that other stuff. Just to see these guys, they deserve this championship as much as any team I have ever seen in my life.
Like, I don't want to be dramatic, but folks, there's a lot of things that could go on after the trophy is hoisted this year. Will there be a league? Will there be a super league? There's been a lot of rumors going around. Folks, get down to the Almond Saturday night, 6 o'clock. Puck drop. You've got a chance to watch some former NHLers. You've got a chance to watch Stratford potentially hoist their second trophy. What's it called? What's the
Super Cup.
What is it?
Super Cup.
The Super Cup.
Yeah.
If you're worried about tickets, come down to the Urban Barber tomorrow. I've got 25 tickets that the team has generously given me to give away. So if it's a matter of cost, come down and see us. We're open till 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and would love to give it to you while supplies last.
The team has just captured the imagination of the people that have stuck with them. There's a lot of people that are missing from last year. Like, there was 1,200 people last year during the semifinals with Alvinston. But folks, like, who knows what's going to happen next season, but right now we all know that Stratford's 1 game a win from winning the championship. And at 6 o'clock on a Saturday night, you can still get home and catch the Leafs, catch a few other NHL playoff games.
Not tomorrow night, but
Or
Saturday night.
Saturday
Leafs are
night.
Sunday night.
Is it Sunday night? The
That's
Leafs?
right.
Well, the Irish
Leafs.
is Saturday.
You said Leafs.
Sorry, I did
So,
say that.
Sunday night. Sorry.
Okay, Sunday the Leafs start. Okay, so you won't
Sorry.
even miss them. But
Yeah.
it's come down, get some of the free
Celebration of good
tickets.
hockey.
It really is.
Well,
it
and
really
some
is.
local kids like, Mitch Casey and Zach
He's
Weir
had a
and
great
Greg Brulot
playoff.
and, guys
Mitch
who played
Casey.
former Culletons. Mitch Casey's been a beauty in this playoffs.
Him and Magwood have really gelled.
Yep.
They've been in on some nice goals. So
He is a dangerous offensive player.
Yeah.
And
I know he likes playing D, but Mitch, you've done really well playing up front. So
Yeah, I think, and I want to shout out to those hardcore Irish fans the Caseys, the Old Boys,
The
Gary-
Zimmermans,
the Gary Broadhagens, those kind of guys who have been through. and
Billy
they're-
Boone,
The ones that you see at the rink, they are true hardcore
Skins.
fighting
Chris
Irish
Kaslick
fans.
Yes.
and his family
yes.
You know what I mean? And so
that
you
buy
know,
50 pucks for.
there's a
He
lot
goes.
of folks,
He goes to the. He cleans out his account at the ATM machine down at the booth to buy pucks.
and,
Love you, Cass.
So you know that's the one thing that you get. I mean, that may not be the biggest crowd. I don't think it's going to match the 1,600 that we got in there for Game 6 for the Warriors, but you're going to see incredible hockey players. You're going to see blistering fast hockey. You're going to see great goaltending at both ends. And like I said, the ones that come to the Irish game are the hardcore fans.
Absolutely.
And they are very vocal. They are very emotional. And I tell you what, man, they are so much fun. Calling that game with my man Trey Hamilton, instead of in the booth, down in the stands,
Yeah.
right in the middle amongst those folks. I'm there with my people, and I tell you what, if it all ends tomorrow, it will be one hell of a ride. And so
Exactly.
I advise y'all,
Well
folks,
said, Holly.
do not miss tomorrow night. It's going to be a special night.
On that note, I guess we've hit it all, and folks, as Les would say, it's okay to not be okay. Just start the conversation. And so we just want to thank everybody for following us and being patient with us. We've got some new and exciting things coming up for the Armchair Chirpers to help prevent any technical difficulties, but we appreciate you joining us on Friday afternoon on Good Friday, and our next show is on Easter Monday at 5:30 if you want to watch it live. So,
Thanks,
Jeff.
everyone.
all right.
Peace.
Peace. Yeah, that was good.
What's Gary Broadhagen saying? Fuck, you got a lot to say.
My wife and I were in Strawberry last night. What an intense game that was for both sides. And great to see Captain Murray back. Yeah, because he's been up north. He's a power lineman, and he's been helping get the power back.
Yeah, can you tell that to the next one?
Our guys were so ready.
We're supposed to leave it?
Yeah, we're actually just leaving it, so then we don't have to set it up Monday. Our guys were so ready to play that one. Lots of hard hitting all night. We were not going to lose that one. Our penalty kill was outstanding. Do you guys know how far Matt Montgomery has to drive to get to these games? He drives from Muskoka, for Pete's sake. And the plays the way he does, that's dedication.
Okay. Yeah, I got some guys waiting to go down to the hotel tickets and whatnot. You can probably take this stuff down now.
Yeah.
Put the chairs away and such.